Have you come back? Just checking to see if you've rejoined us, sir.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're still muted in the actual venue, but I will let Tosh know you're here.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Sir, if you're also watching on YouTube, can you make sure that computer volume is very, very down or extremely low? If it's
Yeah,
not,
I'll go
it's
ahead
a
and
funky
mute it.
sound.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I'll go ahead and mute it.
Great. Looks like they're getting ready to start in just a moment.
Perfect. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved. Second.
I think that was Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Franklin. Any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you
And
please
I'm
call the
making you
roll?
live in the room now, sir.
Thank you.
Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes, motion carries. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Guitry and Ms. Bond, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes, but just missed her.
Sorry. Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes,
7 in favor.
motion carries. Do I have a motion to exempt application 1 from compulsory attendance due to religious exemption in Montgomery County Public Schools?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parton and Ms. Bond, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
No.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes,
5 in favor, 2 opposed.
motion carries. Do I have a motion to exempt application 2 from compulsory attendance due to religious exemption in Montgomery County Public Schools?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Guitry and Ms. Parton, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
No.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Bond, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. Tonight, we have our Christiansburg High School Choir Chamber Ensemble here to perform the national anthem with director Krista Sowers. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you again. We'll move on to our Montgomery County Public Schools mission and belief statement. Our student representatives tonight are Cyrus Underwood from Eastern Montgomery High School and Avi Gandhi from Christiansburg High School. Will you please read our mission and belief statement?
Yes, ma'am. So, our mission. MCPS is an innovative educational community. We value diversity and we are committed to equity and inclusion. MCPS empowers learners to realize success in an ever-changing global society through collaboration with communities, families, staff, and students. MCPS provides a safe, engaging learning environment and intentional exposure to positive social, emotional, and academic experiences.
Beliefs. 1. All students can learn in order to pursue their dreams. 2. Schools are safe places of joy, wonder, and creativity. 3. Every person deserves to be loved, valued, and respected. 4. Kindness is an essential skill of a responsible, productive community member. 5. The diversity of our community is one of our greatest strengths. 6. All people deserve equitable access to opportunities and resources. 7. Every child deserves an advocate. 8. Honoring the voices of our students and other stakeholders strengthens the school community. 9. Open communication and feedback are vital to our growth. 10. Learning and teaching are collective efforts that begin at birth and involve the entire community. 11. Relationship building and high expectations are foundational to a student's success.
Thank you so much, Cyrus and Avi. Our next item of business are the student representative reports. Cyrus, do you have a report from Eastern Montgomery High School?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit on our first item agenda here. Spencer Sisson won the grand award at the Southwest Virginia Governor's School Science Fair with a physical science project category by repurposing a remote control car into a pacing device to aid track athletes. He will move on to compete at the next level. Congratulations to Isaiah Atkinson, who got second place, and Cadence Miller, who got fourth place in the Skills USA District Cabinet Making Contest last month. Isaiah has qualified to move on to the state cabinet making competition this month. Our FBLA competitors have been very successful with 5 first-place finishes, 3 second-place finishes, and 1 third-place finish in the FBLA regional competition, and they will move on to compete at the State Leadership Conference in April. Our boys varsity track and field team placed second at the 1A Region C meet. This is the second time in program history they have done that, and congratulations to Parker Warner, Marshall Tate, Nick Smith, Grayson Welcher, and our relay teams on top finishes, securing the runner-up. Thank you.
Avi, do you have a report from Christiansburg High School?
Yes, ma'am. So, since our last school board meeting, Christiansburg High School has gained some exciting news to share regarding accomplishments and events. CHS celebrated African American History Month during February by presenting daily readings to honor the 100 years of commemoration, and teachers taught students about Christiansburg Institute in history classes. CHS has kicked off the March Madness Music Mayhem Challenge, where students cast their votes in a tournament-style competition to vote for their favorite artists. CHS is kicking off a new initiative for the next 6 weeks called the T3 Challenge. T3 stands for Total Task Takedown. So any student who has 0 missing assignments at upcoming checkpoint dates will have an opportunity to win prizes. We're working to focus on students submitting assignments on time for the remainder of the school year. The CHS boys basketball team won their first regional tournament game in over 10 years and advanced to the regional semifinals against William Byrd. The Christiansburg High School wrestling team competed in the Class 3 state championship 2 weekends ago, resulting in a 4th place finish and 3 state champions, Brady Han, Jake Roby, and Reza Masjoni. The Christiansburg High School boys swim and dive team won the Region 3D championship for the second year in a row. They also competed in the Class 3 state championship 2 weeks ago. Luke Rawlings won the 1-meter diving crown, and Laney Alderman won the 100 breaststroke, set the school record, and swam fast enough to earn All-American honors. The CHS girls and boys indoor track and field teams competed in the Region 3D tournament, with the girls finishing second and the boys finishing third. CHS had 23 students earn all-district choir honors, sending 3 to the all-state choir. CHS currently ranks number 2 overall in the VHSL National Guard Cup for Class 3. And the CHS Southwest Virginia Governor's School students won numerous awards at the SWVGS and Blue Ridge Highlands Regional Science Fairs. Melvin Palmer won the Physics and Astronomy category at regionals, qualifying him for the Virginia State Science and Engineering Fair. The CHS Beta Club competed at the Virginia State Beta Convention, and the club won second in the Service Learning Showcase. Overall, Christiansburg High School continues to demonstrate excellence in student engagement, athletics, and academics. Thank you.
Thank you again, Avi and Cyrus, for your reports. Now we'll move on to our honors, awards, and recognitions, and thank you all for bearing with us and for being with us tonight to celebrate so many people. We'll start with our Seniors of the Month. Dr. Lori Comer, Director of Secondary Education, will start our presentation for Seniors of the Month.
Good evening, Chair Purcell, school board members, Dr. Gimple. This evening, we pause to shine a spotlight on a truly special group of students. One distinguished senior from each of the class of 2026 from each of our 4 high schools. As graduation draws closer, It's especially meaningful to recognize those who have consistently demonstrated excellence and have helped shape the culture and spirit of their schools. These seniors have distinguished themselves not only through strong academic performance, but also through their leadership, service, and personal integrity. They lead by example, they contribute in ways both seen and unseen, and they leave a positive and lasting imprint on their peers, their teachers, and the broader school communities. Their profiles, displayed here tonight and in our central office lobby, offer a glimpse into the many accomplishments and the qualities that set them apart. You'll hear reflections from the educators that nominated them, individuals who can speak to their character, their perseverance, and the impact of these young leaders. Together, they represent strength, promise, and a bright future of Montgomery County Public Schools. At this time, I invite each school administrator to come forward and introduce their senior. We'll start with Mr. Hurd, followed by Mr. Stewart, Mr. Gwynn, and Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Gimple. The March Senior of the Month for Auburn High School is Alex Zuckerwar. If I can ask Alex and his family to join me. Alex has been an excellent student athlete, and citizen of the Auburn High School community. He's been a member of many clubs, an all-district member of the soccer team, and the editor of the AHS yearbook, and you can also find him refereeing rec league games. He's also a state scorer in the pole vault. A teacher said of Alex, "It is my honor to recognize Alex Zuckerwar as the Senior of the Month. Alex is rare because even though he excels in both academics and athletics, he retains a basic humility and humanity which makes him exceedingly accessible. Last year, Alex was an exemplary student in dual enrollment English, tirelessly editing and revising each draft, not because he was solely motivated by the grade, but from an innate desire for self-improvement. Alex has also been a stalwart in the yearbook class for the past 4 years. Last year, an assistant editor, and this year as editor-in-chief, the first male in this capacity in 40 years at Auburn High School. Even though Alex's job requires him to edit staff work, delegate tasks, and set deadlines, potentially divisive tasks, his leadership style empowers the students. He nurtured where others might have pushed. He encouraged where others might have barked. Consequently, under his steady resolve and leadership, the yearbook staff felt a sense of ownership. It was a truly collective effort. Alex is a well-rounded, grounded, empathetic, and remarkable young man who deserves this recognition. Alex plans to attend a 4-year university, perhaps as a student athlete. Congratulations, Alex. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Gimple. It is my pleasure to present the March Blacksburg High School Senior of the Month, Lane Daly. I'd like to invite Lane and his family to please join me while I read a brief statement from one of our staff members. Lane is a standout senior who perfectly marries academic precision with a genuine heart for his classmates. Whether he is elevating class discussions with insightful inquiries or demonstrating his versatility through various clubs, Lane approaches every task with responsibility and intelligence. He is more than just a high achiever. He is a resilient and lighthearted individual who handles setbacks with grace and confidence. His ability to be both serious scholar and supportive friend makes him an integral part of our school community. For his leadership, empathy, and unwavering work ethic, Lane is truly Senior of the Month material. Congratulations, Lane.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Gimple, and student representatives. It is my pleasure to introduce the March Senior of the Month for Christiansburg High School, Mr. Reese Masri. I would like to ask Reese and his family to please come forward at this time. When asking some of his teachers to describe Reese, they said, "He is a driven self-starter who consistently embodies the CHS core values of being respectful, responsible, and connected." Throughout his high school career, Reese has evolved from an enthusiastic rookie into an inspirational captain of the Robotics 401 team, where he leads motivational meetings and serves as a vital liaison for our CTE department. His dedication extends to the CHS PTSA, where he maturely seeks out every possible opportunity to volunteer and improve our campus. Known for being incredibly personable and conscientious, Reese has become a lifesaver in the library by instinctively assisting students and staff without ever being asked. He is deeply invested in making CHS the best it can be, often going above and beyond his academic responsibilities in his dual enrollment courses and any task he is given. Reese seizes every chance to share his STEM experience with younger students to inspire the next generation of innovators. His transition from a student with big ideas to a true community leader makes him a delight to have in the classroom and a cornerstone for our school. By leading with heart and initiative, Reese Masri truly represents the very best of our senior class. Reese plans to attend Virginia Tech this fall to study industrial and systems engineering with the goal of improving airport processes and operations for a career. Congratulations, Reese.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Gimple. It's an honor to be here this evening to recognize two Eastern Montgomery High School Seniors of the Month. First up is Olivia Boone. She is the Senior of the Month for March, and I'm proud to ask Olivia Boone and her family to come forward at this time. To speak on Olivia's qualifications for this honor, her art teacher, Kelly Smith Price, wrote this about her. It would be easier to list the sports teams and clubs that Olivia Boone is not a participant in than those that she is. She plays volleyball, basketball, soccer, and track. She is in Interact, Beta, SCA, and the PEP Club. The list of awards and community activities are even longer. And yes, Olivia is a very active student at Eastern Montgomery High School. However, I would consider Olivia Boone to be one of the most creative art students I've had the pleasure of teaching. After working with her for the past 4 years, I've come to know her well, and I find her to be the type of student that will volunteer her time and talent when asked. She has designed the senior class mural and has taken the initiative to head up that project. Olivia is an exceptionally bright, creative thinker and exemplifies a level of understanding of how to use the visual arts to communicate. Olivia plans on studying early education at the college level and seeking a degree that will help her prepare her in the field of, Olivia plans on studying early education at the college level and seeking a degree that will help prepare her in the field of elementary education and would like to work at a small elementary school in the future. EMHS certainly was a better place while Olivia was in attendance at our school, and she certainly will be missed. I wish Olivia all the best. Please join me in congratulating Olivia Boone as the EMHS Senior of the Month for March. Next up is Brooklyn Kingery. As with many of our seniors of the month, Brooklyn is very involved and was busy representing his school on the basketball court for the nights corresponding to the last 2 school board meetings. However, Brooklyn is here with her family tonight, and I ask them to come forward at this time. Among many other things, Brooklyn participates in the Nurses Aid program at Christiansburg High School, and her teacher in that program, Jen Roby, wrote the following about her. Brooklyn is an extremely hardworking and motivated student. She is compassionate, patient, and respectful when interacting with residents and peers. Brooklyn is a dependable and responsible person, and she maintains high standards for herself and consistently strives to exceed expectations. She represents our program with professionalism and integrity. Her ability to communicate effectively and provide thoughtful and compassionate care reflects true nursing potential. She is an exceptional student with a bright future in nursing. As she graduates this spring, Brooklyn will undoubtedly do EMHS proud as she continues to pursue a career as a NICU nurse. Congratulations, Brooklyn.
Right. Dr. Thomas Brewster, Assistant Director of Human Resources, will start our recognition for Support Staff Employees of the Year. This is a recognition. No action is required. Dr. Gimple and Ms. Purcell will be headed down to the podium at this time for this recognition.
Good evening, Chair Purcell, members of the board, and Dr. Gimple. I'm honored to stand before you tonight to recognize our support staff employees of the year. Montgomery County deeply values the dedication and hard work of our support staff, our administrators, assistants, school nurses, custodians, paraprofessionals, facility workers, technology staff, bus drivers, and school nutrition employees are essential to meeting the needs of our students. The success of our school division depends on their daily contributions. Each year, we recognize exemplary support staff members, selecting one individual to serve as our support staff employee of the year. This individual represents the entire division during the following school year, similar to our teacher of the year. Nominees consistently demonstrate leadership, build positive relationships with students, colleagues, and the community, and make outstanding contributions to our schools. This year, 22 support staff members were nominated by their principals or directors. It is with great pleasure that I announce and honor our nominees for Support Staff Employee of the Year. Joining me today is Dr. Amanda Widener, the Interim Assistant Superintendent. And I'd also like to call on Danny Knott, representing the Christiansburg-Blacksburg Rotary Club. Also, on behalf of the Rotary Club, Mr. Knott will present a $1,000 check to our School Division Employee of the Year. Although many of our support staff employees are here tonight, some were unable to attend due to family commitments or personal illness. To those who are present, when I call your name, please come forward to receive your certificate and a small token of our appreciation. If you brought guests who wishes to take photographs, they are welcome to come forward for that purpose. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our first nominee, Montel Bailey, bus driver, Price's Fork Elementary School. Our next nominee, Linda Baylor, Administrative Assistant to the Director of Facilities. Our next nominee is Thomas Bentley, Head Strand Custodian, Blacksburg High School. Karen Cecil, Administrative Assistant, Margaret Beeks Elementary School. Matt Gogler, Custodian, Kipps Elementary School. Wayne Griffith, Senior Custodian, Blacksburg Middle School. Rebecca Hall, Nurse, Christiansburg Middle School. Cindy Janey, Administrative Assistant, Auburn Middle School. Pam McGuire, Paraprofessional, Christiansburg Primary School. Amanda Mima, Paraprofessional, Eastern Montgomery Elementary School. Kimberly Miller, Lunch Recess Aide, Christiansburg Elementary School. Debbie Odell, Instructional Assistant, Auburn High School. Lindsay Olis, Paraprofessional, Shawsville Middle School. Anna Philpott, Custodian, Auburn Elementary School. Jennifer Price, Custodian, Bellevue Elementary School. Ryan Rose, Bus Driver, Montgomery Central. Karen Shandell, Before After School Coordinator, Gilbert Lincoln Elementary School. Nikki Shoemate, bookkeeper, Eastern Montgomery High School. Sherry Slate, custodian, Harding Avenue Elementary School. Ashley Snyder, nurse, Falling Branch Elementary School. Teresa Sweeney, paraprofessional, Christiansburg High School. It is now my honor to announce the MCPS Support Staff Employee of the Year for 26-27 school year. This honor is a testament to her outstanding contributions to Montgomery County Public Schools, a recognition she truly deserves. So let's travel back in time to 1994. Lori, are you with us? Come on up. Let's travel back to 1994. The Lion King and Forrest Gump were in theaters. Friends had just premiered. Amazon was brand new, and yes, the Dallas Cowboys were still winning Super Bowls. That same year, Lori Walls began what would become an extraordinary 32-year journey with Montgomery County Public Schools. Today, we proudly recognize Lori as our 2026-27 Support Staff Employee of the Year, an honor that reflects not only her longevity, but her exceptional dedication, professionalism, and heart. From her early days as a clerical, writing to read aide, to 26 years as a trusted administrative assistant at Blacksburg Middle School, and later serving in the central office as an HR specialist / receptionist in the school board office, Lori has been steady and a welcoming presence for students, staff, and the community. She greets everyone warmly, handles challenges with grace, and takes on responsibilities with unwavering reliability. But what truly sets Lori apart is how she does her work, with kindness, encouragement, and a genuine commitment to supporting others. Lori doesn't just do her job exceptionally well, she makes our workplace better. She is a dedicated professional, a supportive teammate, and a true friend to all. Congratulations, Lori Walls. We are thankful for her dedication to the school division and congratulate her as our MCPS Support Staff Employee of the Year. At this time, we'd like to recognize Lori for this honor, and Mr. Knott will present a check on her behalf from the Christiansburg-Blacksburg Rotary Club for $1,000. Thank you, and that includes our presentation for Support Staff Employee of the Year. Congratulations to everyone.
So as Dr. Gimple and Ms. Purcell make their way around, or are y'all staying back down? Y'all can stay down, stay down, stay down. We're gonna move on to the recognition of fine arts state and national winners. Dr. Lori Comer, Director of Secondary Education, will start our recognition of fine arts state and national winners. This is recognition. No action is required.
Good evening once again. March is Music in Our Schools Month and Youth Art Month. It's a time when we celebrate the vital role that the fine arts play in a very well-rounded education and the lasting impact that they have on our students, our schools, and our communities. Montgomery County Public Schools is proud to recognize and honor our students who have earned state and national recognition in various fine art events. These outstanding achievements reflect not only extraordinary talent, but also dedication, discipline, creativity, and a commitment to excellence. Our student musicians and artists have distinguished themselves through prestigious ensembles, exhibitions, competitions, and performances, representing MCPS with pride on some of the most respected stages and galleries across the Commonwealth and the nation. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our fine arts educators, whose passion, expertise, and mentorship inspire our students to reach their highest levels of artistic achievement. Their work ensures that the arts remain a vibrant and essential part of the MCPS educational experience. In addition, both Blacksburg Middle School and Blacksburg High School are recognized as Virginia Music Educators Blue Ribbon Schools. During this special month of recognition, we celebrate the power of performing arts and visual arts to foster expression, innovation, cultural understanding, and connection within our schools and throughout our communities. Please join us in congratulating these exceptional students and teachers for their remarkable accomplishments in the fine arts. We have 5 schools that will be coming forward tonight. Their principal will come forward and present them with a certificate and announce their state or national awards. We will begin with Auburn Middle School, then Auburn High, Blacksburg Middle, Blacksburg High, and Christiansburg High.
All right. Auburn Middle School is very proud to announce Doris Miller for All-State Choir. She is an exceptional singer.
Auburn High School has 2 All-State Choir members. First, Miss Isabel Simmons. Our second All-State Choir member, Amber Belcher.
Blacksburg Middle School would like to recognize the following all-state choir members. As I call your name, please come to the front to be recognized. First, Mr. Reed Lawrence. At this time, Reed Susie. Beth Stevens. Seti Barrett Musoke could not be with us this evening. Charlotte Slider. And last but not least, Emily Strand. Thank you.
PHS would like to recognize the following all-state band members: Pam Campagna, Mona Lower, Arlo Smith, Corey Rogers, Megan Simpson, Ryan Highfield, Samuel Anderson, Jamison Childers, Dennis Zal, Tony Zal, and our next two I'd like to recognize are also recognizing for their National Honor Band of America award as well. Jacob Fox, and Amanda Ecke. BHS would like to recognize the following Virginia All-State Choir members: Emery Moore, Daniel Philitrow, Sam Farmer, and we'd also like to recognize Jacob Fox also for Virginia All-State. So All-State for band and National Honor Band and choir. Congratulations. BHS would like to recognize the following art students for their achievement in the Scholastic Art Show. First, Sky Stanley. Ryan Burns. Penny Griggs. Granger Tucker. Nora Schmoley. And Mariah Brown. We do have a student-run art show that started this evening, so I think many of them are there this evening. We'd also like to take a moment to recognize Sky Stanley, who was also awarded one of 6 Virginia Museum of Fine Arts undergraduate fellowships for the 26-27 school year. Congratulations, Sky.
CHS would like to take an opportunity to recognize the following all-state choir members: Miss Leah Razor, Mr. Kylan Porter, Miss Elena Cromer, and last but not least, Miss Sophia Bremner, who also earned VMEA Senior Honors Choir as well. And thank you to Miss Sowers, our choir teacher as well, for helping to prepare them for that. CHS would also like to recognize the following individuals for their achievement in the Scholastic Arts Show: Miss Sophie Hepler. And we want to thank Ms. Lyons as well, her art teacher. And Miss Carney Smith. CHS would also like to recognize the VHSL One Act first place winners in our subregion. I'm actually just going to call the cast and crew up together, and I'm going to say all your names. So just come on up and line up, please. I want to recognize their teacher, Miss Michaela Witten, as well for that. So the cast and crew is Maddie Hell, Avery Donraj, Sophia Bremner, Cassidy Barnett, Jordan Van, Sammy Kaminsky, Maverick Jones, Jace Martz, Kai Fearer, Max Averett, Lila Custer, Louisa Horta, Ella Brando, Gabby Johnson, Sarah Clark, Betty Thomas, and Sophie Strasbaugh. Congratulations again. And guys, I'll get all of your certificates tomorrow at school if that's okay. Does that work? Let's get a picture though. Act like you love each other.
So next, Montgomery County Public Schools Administration is proud to recognize the recent winners of the Southwest Virginia's Governor's School Science Fair. Dr. Lori Comer, Director of Secondary Education, will start our recognition tonight. This is a recognition. No action is required.
Montgomery County Public Schools Administration is proud to recognize the recent winners of the Southwest Virginia Governor's School Science Fair. These exceptional students exemplify highest levels of academic excellence, innovation, and dedication to scientific inquiry. Already engaged in advanced coursework, these students continue to distinguish themselves through rigorous study, research, and application of complex scientific concepts. Their outstanding performances at this prestigious regional event reflect not only their individual talents, but also the strength of our instructional programs and the commitment of our educators who support and inspire high levels of achievement. We commend these students for their remarkable accomplishments and for representing Montgomery County Public Schools with such distinction in the fields of science, research, and innovation. We will ask that our honorees line up across the front, and Mr. Webb will take some photographs. And after the photographs are taken, Alexandra and Spencer will each take a couple of moments each to elaborate upon their projects. We will ask the principals from each of the 4 schools to come forward and announce their students. We'll begin with Mr. Hurd, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Gwynn, and then Mr. Lewis.
Auburn High School had a second place winner at the Southwest Virginia Governor's School Science Fair. Laura Altizer won second place.
Blacksburg High School would like to recognize the following students for their accomplishments in the Southwest Virginia Governor's School Science Fair. First, Lucas Holland, who placed second in the Earth and Environmental Science category. Next, Ian Yora McCree for second place in Biomedical and Health Sciences. And Alexandra Nee for first place in robotics and intelligent machines.
Good to see you all again. CHS would like to take an opportunity to recognize the following students as Southwest Governor School Science Fair Award winners. First, Miss Leanne Bruce, second place. Next, Aiden Ralston, second place. Next, Chloe Fear, third place. Next, Miss Piper Chambliss for honorable mention. Next, we had Miss Emma Wiley as earning the Research Award. Miss Addie Meekum also earning the Research Award. Last but not least, and he made it around, Mr. Avi Gandhi also earning the Research Award.
Good evening. It's an honor to recognize, representing Eastern Montgomery High School, third place award in Animal Sciences and the American Society of Mammalogists Award, Lily Bowman. And first place Grand Award in Engineering Technology, Statics and Dynamics, and Virginia State Science and Engineering Fair Delegate, Spencer Sisson.
Yeah, so the board will take a brief break to thank our honorees for being here today.
I believe we have some of our science fair awardees who are going to speak briefly about their projects. Is Spencer Sisson still here to share with us? Yeah. Spencer, thank you for staying and presenting for us.
No problem. Good evening, Dr. Gimple and members of the board. Cyrus already gave me a brief introduction on my project, but I'm Spencer Sisson. I'm a senior at both Eastern Montgomery and Southwest Virginia Governor's School. Usually when I present this project, it takes around 15 minutes or so, but I'll try to shorten it a little bit tonight. But for my project, I chose to develop a pacing device to aid track athletes using a repurposed remote control car and Arduino Nano microcontroller. I chose this project as I've always had an interest in creating things, and that's why I always choose engineering-based projects. And as a runner for the past 4 years of high school, I've seen the need for a device like this. So I set it up with this Arduino Nano microcontroller, which allows me to program the speed of the device through a computer. Of course, this is impractical for a runner to do every time they want to change paces. So I also added and programmed this number pad to allow runners to input a pace on the number pad, hit the start button, and that pace is converted to a pulse width modulation signal, which tells the motor how fast to go. Runners were also able to manually control this using a remote control. While I enjoyed my research in developing this pacing car, not everything went as planned. I ran into many problems that led me to shift the scope of my car throughout working on it. My original idea was for the device to be able to drive autonomously around the track through the use of a color sensor located between the left wheels. The idea was for the car to follow the inner white line of the track so that runners wouldn't have to manually control the steering of the device through the controller. My busy schedule throughout this winter meant that I had to test the car in the dark on the track every night in the cold weather, which wasn't ideal for testing. And after countless nights of rewriting code, making slight adjustments, and running the car over and over again, I made the decision to adjust my project so the steering could be controlled manually by the remote control. One benefit of this is that it allowed me to use the car both on and off the track. After I set up this device and had the code working as intended, I decided to collect data over a range of different paces to test its accuracy with different pace inputs. I did this by running the device over a set distance and timing the time it took to travel this distance. I then subtracted these times from the expected times to calculate error values for each trial. After this, I averaged those values to create 5 different error means for the 5 different paces at which I tested at. After running a statistical test on this, the results were not what I wanted to see, as it concluded that the device was not accurate over all 5 of the paces. However, after running a follow-up test, I found that the device was fairly reliable over a good portion of these paces, which showed some promise. Further research after seeing these results has led me to believe that the primary issue with my device is likely with the dated electronic speed controller located on the back here, which was unable to send signals with enough precision to the motor. So I'd be curious in the future to test it on maybe a higher quality remote control car that'd be able to more accurately change those slight speeds. But still, I'm happy to say that at the Blue Ridge Highlands Regional Science Fair this past weekend, I earned the honor of being selected as a delegate for the Virginia State Science and Engineering Fair. I had this honor of competing at this fair last year and found it to be both a beneficial learning experience and a lot of fun. I look forward to having the opportunity to go again next month. Of course, these research opportunities wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't decided to attend Governor's School 2 years ago. I'd like to take this moment to thank the school board for providing me with this opportunity to attend, as it has allowed me to not only conduct my own research for 2 years, but also take classes that are not offered at Eastern Montgomery High School. However, I will say the bus ride at 5:50 a.m. in the morning to New River Community College has not gotten any easier. But as the only current senior from Eastern Montgomery attending Governor's School, probably because of that bus ride, I hope that my positive experience will inspire the underclassmen at Eastmont to attend as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Spencer. Were we able to catch Alexandra or no? Okay. Our next agenda item is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Reed will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order that they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county in which you live. Our first speaker is Betty Thomas, followed by Fiona Fraley.
Schedule. Because I am just a year out of CMS and my brother starts middle school in the fall, I read the entire thing. And to put it lightly, it was interesting. As a summary for those in the audience, the proposal is basically a response to the decline in test scores in the middle schools. The plan is to eliminate the daily IE time that the middle school has right now and push the beginning of the school day back by roughly 20 minutes. All of this is in order to extend classes by about 10 minutes to improve test scores. As a freshman in high school, I ride the bus. But my bus runs to the middle school first, and to be perfectly honest, I don't want to lose 10 minutes of precious sleep. Now, I get that at the end of the day, my beauty sleep probably isn't what's on your mind when you're finding a solution to this problem. But if I'm waking up 10 minutes earlier, so is everyone else who rides my bus. Do you know what doesn't improve test scores? Not getting enough sleep. Look, if you want to get the middle school's test grades up, taking away their socialization time in the morning, not letting them get a full night's sleep, and eliminating their IE time might sound like a solution. But I'd like to suggest that perhaps the problem goes deeper than just test grades. Maybe the issue we're seeing isn't just with our instructional hours, but instead with how many people are actually showing up to class to receive that instruction. Look, our absenteeism rates, especially at the middle school levels, are trash. Students simply don't want to come to school, and because they're losing that instruction time, those kids don't do well in their classes. But the way to fix this and improve test grades isn't by extending the school day or taking away what limited time they have with their friends. In fact, that might just do the exact opposite of what you're hoping it will. According to this proposal, the problem you're trying to solve has to do with the test performance of students with disabilities. Well, I did a little digging on the subject matter. Did you know that students with IEPs and 504 plans are almost 3 times more likely to receive in-school suspension and almost 4 times more likely to receive out-of-school suspension? Do you think that maybe the reason that test scores are down for students with disabilities is because they're being forced out of the learning environment? Just saying that maybe before we take a pretty big leap on extending the school day, we should think about lowering the amount of suspensions and switching those punishments to something else. Look, I don't know exactly how this is going to be resolved, but I am going to say that this problem is bigger than an additional 10 minutes. I get that nothing I say here actually solves your problem, but instead of doing something to say you did something, maybe what you really need is to dig deeper and get more data, because something tells me the issue is much more complex than just class periods being too short. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Our next speaker is Fiona Fraley.
Hi, my name is Fiona Fraley, and I'm from Christiansburg Middle School. I like to bring some light on the suggestion of starting middle schools earlier and getting rid of the instructional time at the end of the day. The thing that Christiansburg Middle School does at the end of the day is they split people up. Those who need help will be put with teachers to get the help that they need, while those who don't can do fun things with all the other grades. Many people are finally able to see their friends after the whole day of school. If we get rid of this, then what will happen to the people who are passing their classes and just want to do something fun at the end of the day? At the beginning of the school year, we had 3 minutes to go between classes and 2 minutes for the last period. Here are some of my concerns. How much time will students get to go in between classes, since these extra minute times are rounded up? If the middle schoolers have to get on the buses earlier, what will happen to the high schoolers that ride with them? How much earlier do students have to get up just to get ready and not miss the bus? What will happen to the buses that go to the high school first? Will we be late? Middle school is a big step in growing up, and if the time at the end of the day is taken away, then it would feel more like kids are being isolated from their friends than being helped. Many people rely on the thought of seeing their friends at the end of the day just to get through it. This idea was better in theory than it is on paper. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fraley. And seeing no other signups for public address, we'll consider public address closed. Next, we'll move on to consent items. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we'll consider those items approved. Next up is payment of the bills for fiscal year 2025-2026. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Dr. Roundtree, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to our business meeting. And our first item is a report from the superintendent. Dr. Kelly Gimple will provide his report.
Thank you. First of all, what a fantastic job speaking those two young ladies just did. Unbelievable, impressive. That was great. I wish I could speak that well when I come up to a microphone. So just wonderful job by both of them. I do want to start this evening by saying thank you to our school board for an outstanding retreat. Over the course of a day and a half, we made tremendous progress revisiting and strengthening several key practices that will guide our work moving forward. Just as important as the outcomes was the dialogue itself. Very thoughtful, candid, consistently focused on what is best for our students and staff. So thank you, all 7 of you, for just a great weekend there. And I thought it was just great dialogue, and I thought we made a lot of progress there. I'm especially grateful to Dr. Wayne Harris for facilitating the retreat with such professionalism and purpose, and to Tosh Osborne for her extensive coordination behind the scenes and to ensure that everything ran smoothly. I want to say thank you to our Board of Supervisors at this time, who have taken the time to be present in our schools over the past several weeks. Gunan Karan has been to multiple listening sessions, has joined me on several school visits. Steve Fidzikowski has also been participating in the listening sessions, toured a number of schools. Mary Biggs has also attended listening sessions. Their engagement reflects a shared commitment to our students and a strong collaboration with our schools. So I just want to thank the 3 of them for taking the time to just walk around the buildings with me, come to the listening sessions, and spend some quality time. I also want to thank and recognize the high level of instruction, the student engagement, and just the building leadership that I've witnessed on all of my visits to our schools. This is my 31st year in education and working in different buildings in 6 different divisions across this state. And I'm telling you that our teachers and our students are second to none here. I'm already seeing that. The hard work and just the environments that our students get to go to school in is absolutely outstanding. And I just want to thank everybody for their warm welcome and the environments. It's a clear reflection on the outstanding communities we have here in Montgomery County. I want to thank staff for coming out to my listening sessions after you've taught all day, to come out and just listening and just talking with me. We've had over several hundred people come to the listening sessions, and I'm getting ready to do the very last one coming up on Thursday at Price's Fork Elementary School. And again, if you haven't attended one of the earlier ones, please come out. I'm also considering with Andrew out there doing a virtual listening session for anybody that wasn't able to make it to any of the nights physically, just to wrap things up. But they've been fantastic. I appreciate sharing insights and just opinions and just helping me to get to know Montgomery County and what I need to do to be the very best superintendent and to serve this division in the very best capacity that I can. So thank you all. That concludes my comments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gimple. For our next agenda item, David Dickinson, Administrator of Social Studies and World Languages Curriculum, will present an update on Black History Month activities at MCPS. Thank you so much, Mr. Dickinson.
Okay, good evening, members of the board and Dr. Gimple. I am pleased to present a summary of our district's Black History Month activities to you all. This year's theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations, was chosen because it marks exactly 100 years since Dr. Carter Woodson established what was at the time called Negro History Week, a revolutionary act to recognize, preserve, and celebrate the history, culture, and achievements of African Americans. So this is the 100th year of this. Across MCPS, our schools and teachers recognize this milestone with great enthusiasm. In fact, the majority of instructional staff in every school intentionally incorporated related learning experiences into their instruction. But the snow days didn't help. Many of our schools, like Auburn Elementary, Margaret Beeks, and Price's Fork, started their days with morning announcements highlighting influential figures. At Auburn Middle, educators like Ms. Hendricks integrated bell music, while Miss B. Graves, and Ms. Williams kept information scrolling on TVs and ran daily trivia. School marquees, Facebook posts managed by staff, and scrolling library displays ensured that the recognition of Black history was an immersive experience for all of our students all month long. And this is just an example of one of our school signs. And I wasn't out looking for this, but when I pulled into schools and I saw it, I did try, unless it was really cold, I tried to get a picture of it, and just so that you know, but everybody had these running on their signs to remind folks that it was Black History Month. Academically, our teachers brought history to life through literacy and arts. At Montgomery Central, student-created Harlem Renaissance projects were displayed prominently in the main hallway. Over at Eastern Montgomery High School, 9th and 10th grade English students dove deep into civil rights nonfiction, jazz, and poetry, while Spanish classes celebrated Afro-Latino icons like Roberto Clemente and Celia Cruz. At Shawsville Middle, Mr. Rizak had students analyze the film Race, responding with thoughtful journal entries, and Mr. Rudisil led a hands-on poster activity focusing on abolitionists. And at Auburn Middle, Mr. Nelson also incorporated African-American influenced art into his curriculum. This is just a couple of quick pics of some of our students from one of our African-American history courses who were working on an Underground Railroad quilt. We also made sure to highlight Black excellence in STEM and our rich local history. Eastern Montgomery Elementary fifth graders studied biographies of NASA's hidden figures, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, creating timelines and conducting mock interviews. Engineering students explored videos on Black scientists, and we saw coding activities inspired by these historical giants. And then we also, of course, connected students locally with some classes focused on the Christiansburg Institute, engaging in virtual tours and studying local legends like Charles Schaefer, Edgar Long, and Booker T. Washington. But beyond traditional lessons, some schools were able to prioritize interactive and student-led learning. At Auburn Elementary, 4th and 5th grade SAIL leadership team participated in an MLK essay competition. At Eastmont, the Equity Club hosted a school-wide Jeopardy game featuring notable Black historical figures. We even saw cutting-edge entertainment again at Auburn Middle, where Ms. Williams and Ms. Raines organized a virtual reality experience focused on Black history alongside a screening of the Tuskegee Airmen and an engaging Virginia Tech step show. Dr. Woodson once said, "Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history." Through local history connections and school-wide celebrations, we have done our best to honor the last century of Black history while hoping to inspire the next generation. I'd like to wish a special thanks to our teachers, librarians, counselors, administrators, and of course our students for making this month what I believe was an incredible success, again, considering the many snow days that we had. But a little surprise for you, and we got a little feedback from our students at the end of last week, and tried to hit every school and every grade level. I don't know if we were able to pull that off in the quick video that you're going to see here, but we asked each student, what is the first word you think of when you hear Black History Month? And just one word, but you know, some kids had a hard time just keeping it to one word, but I think you'll like this if it works. Is it gonna work?
Yes. Rosa Parks. People who were African Americans that changed the past.
Freedom.
Kindness. Freedom.
Inspiration.
History.
Courage.
Inclusiveness. Martin Luther King Jr.
Integrity.
I think of love. The first word I think of is Carter and Martin Luther King Jr.
Inclusiveness.
Roots. Leadership.
Brave.
I think of strong people and just like people that persevered even when times are super bad for them. Love. Martin Luther King and his speech, I have a dream. Rosa Parks.
Resilience.
Supportive. Courage. Freedom. Quality.
Necessary.
Kindness.
Any questions?
Board,
Aren't
any
they
questions?
cute? Those kids are so cute, I can't stand it. They really are. And I have to tell you, let me just tell you that there must have been 200 of those videos in there, but Andrew did a great job picking through it and putting a nice little something together for you.
I'll just thank the teachers and librarians and all the staff who continue to honor this tradition. We live in a time which there are people who want to erase this history, and I'm very proud of the administration and our employees for making sure that we continue to honor this month.
I do have one, I left a note here for myself if I have time to make this announcement, because we do a lot of work with the Christiansburg Institute, Inc. I just want to point out that they were awarded a $10,000 grant through the Virginia Tourism Corporation's Marketing Leverage Program, and they are putting together and filming a documentary right now. We'll be doing some interviews with some alumni and family of alumni, and the backdrop is going to be Christiansburg High School. So we'll be, actually I'll be there with them this week doing interviews inside, and we could look to see that documentary probably in the next 12 months. So.
Great. This was great, and I really appreciate it being presented at a school board meeting to help folks understand this is important, and it's important to the district. So thank you all.
Thanks. All right, have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Our next item on the agenda is the middle school schedule proposal. Dr. Amanda Widener, Interim Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Dr. Lori Comer, Director of Secondary Education, will present a proposal to revise the middle school schedule. And this is just informational.
Good evening, Chair Purcell, school board members, student representatives, and Dr. Gimple. Dr. Comer and I are here tonight to present information to you regarding ideas and a proposal to make revisions to the current middle school schedule. The purpose of this is to look for ways that we can increase instructional time, maximize some of the existing time in the schedule so that we can better meet student academic needs. So in our presentation, these are our objectives. We want to present a proposal, and we'll share two different versions of a possible schedule that we want to consider as we look at planning for next year. In these proposals, our primary goal is to look for ways to increase instructional time for our middle school students. And we'll talk about the reasons why and kind of do some comparisons to instructional time that we have in our elementary schools, as well as instructional time that is in other school divisions, neighboring school divisions and school divisions across the state. We believe that these ideas would better align our time and structure to student academic needs, and we believe that this would help support and improve student outcomes that we've been working on, whether those are in our continuous school improvement plans or other goals within the schools that they have set. So first and foremost, I want to address why are we just focusing on middle school? We feel that when we look at our data and how our students are performing, and of course I shared information with you earlier this year on how our schools performed when we looked at the framework that was introduced by the state, we see a big need in middle school. We see a dip in student performance in both reading and math. When you look at the designation of our middle schools, half of our middle schools this year were designated as needing additional support and intervention. So they had a federal designation. That's a greater percentage than our elementary schools or our high schools. And those designations were were related to performance with students with disabilities. But again, when we look across all groups, we do see dips in the performance across other groups as well. And also when we looked at our framework, we had several schools that were identified as on track and as distinguished. But our middle school level is the only level where we did not have any distinguished schools. Half our high schools were identified as distinguished, and many of our elementary schools were, but we did not have any middle schools that were. And we don't think that's because our students and our teachers aren't making an effort, but we do think that some of the instructional time that is not being utilized, or because maybe we don't have enough instructional time in our core subjects, may be impacting that. So I want to talk a little bit about instructional time comparisons. When we look at our elementary schools are structured to give a significant amount of time to both reading and math. So in all of our elementary schools, there's a minimum of 60 minutes of math instruction on a daily basis. There's a minimum of 90, but in some cases 120 minutes dedicated to reading and literacy. That changes a great deal. That is reduced significantly when students come to middle school. Our core instructional time is reduced for a number of reasons. Part of it is we're introducing a 7-period schedule where students not only have the 4 core subjects, but also have opportunities for electives. And I don't want to discredit the value and importance of electives. Certainly our goal here is not to reduce electives, because electives have a great value and they're certainly an important part of the middle school experience as students learn to explore and develop skills and really kind of fine-tune what some of their interests are. But nonetheless, 45 minutes for math and 45 minutes for reading can be very challenging, especially at a time where the state has recently changed our standards. We have more rigorous standards now in math and reading, and also at a time this year the state did approve to increase the cut scores, and that will start going into effect. So it can be challenging for our teachers to find time within a 45-minute period to provide effective direct instruction, to provide opportunities for that guided practice in small group settings, to provide time for some independent practice, some assessment, and then when it's needed, appropriate intervention and remediation. So that provides some constraints on the schedule. So what we see when we look at elementary versus middle school is that there is a decrease in instructional time, particularly for math and reading. Our current middle school schedule also creates some challenges. When we look at how the middle school schedule exists now, the school day actually starts at 8:05, so that's when we begin our first period class. However, the vast majority of students are actually in the buildings at 7:45. Our doors open at 7:35, and actually at least one of our middle schools, we open them at 7:30, and that's because we have buses that are arriving and dropping off kids at 7:30, 7:35 in the morning. In fact, at Christiansburg Middle School, 10 of the buses are there by 7:30. So probably by 7:45, as much as 80% of our students are already in the building. And so we have a lot of downtime. And if you walk into a middle school, at 7:45 in the morning, you're going to see that the building's already very full. There's kids there. And yes, some of them are having breakfast and some of them are engaged in social time, but you'll see that they're doing a lot of sitting around. And so it seems that maybe we should consider that we have kids in the building at this time, and maybe there would be better ways to utilize to create more structured time to get them into class, and to take advantage of that time where we have so many of our students. But there is a significant downtime in our middle schools from about 7:35 until 8:05 when classes actually begin. The other change we want to talk about here is that we have been utilizing this intervention enrichment time for many years now. It's about 25 to 26 minutes where we have added this extra, it's not a full period, but extra time within the day. The IE period creates additional transitions. So again, every time we have a class change, that's another 4-minute transition time. So we're losing time there. And Dr. Comer is going to share some information that we've gathered from middle school principals, from teachers, just talking about that this period has not really enabled us to address needs consistently and as effectively as we would like. So the idea in our proposal is that we would eliminate the IE period, use that period so it could be reabsorbed into class period time, in addition to a slightly earlier start time. So I'm going to let Dr. Comer talk a little bit about some of the things that we've learned from the IE period over the years.
As we talked with our building level principals and we analyzed our data and we said, what happens between 5th grade and 6th grade? What is different? And our principal said, we don't have enough time. Our teachers don't have the same amount of time that they're getting in 5th grade for these areas of instruction, and then we're reducing it to 45 minutes. So we gathered that feedback. But as we gather feedback, one of the things we need to do with any of our instructional programs is we need to look at it with a lens of reflection. We need to look to see what's working and what's not working. Our data that Dr. Widener shared with you clearly showed 2 of our 4 middle schools are in need of additional support. None of our middle schools achieved that level of distinguished. In the current IE model that we have that Dr. Widener was talking about, students typically only receive an intervention that day in one subject area. With the proposed schedule, they could have additional time in every class period, which means that teacher would have time to teach a mini lesson, to give time for independent work, and to do some small group instruction and pull those students and give them what they need. So if a student was struggling in reading and in math, they could get that in the same day. The current model does not allow for that. So we wanted to use this as a time of reflection. Our principals came up with a survey. We asked our principals to think outside the box. And they said, well, let's poll the teachers. So that's exactly what we did, and we'll look at those results shortly. We have some data, just so you can see, in English Language Arts from 5th grade, and we've done this with two different groups, Group 1 and Group 2, and we see that drop in Group 2 there from 5th grade to 6th grade. So there is a drop, and we never quite recover that when we get out of middle school. In mathematics, we see a little bit bigger drop. And in that mathematics, we lose 15 to 23 points from 5th grade to 6th grade. And once again, the difference there between the 5th grade and the 6th grade is the amount of time that they have in instruction. That 5th grade group is getting 2 hours of reading language arts and 1 full hour of mathematics. In 6th grade, it's reduced to 45 minutes. and they're not always getting intervened in both subject areas. So in our teacher survey, we've got 41% said they definitely believe that longer class periods would better integrate intervention and enrichment into their class period. 24% believe that it likely would. And 22% said maybe it would be unlikely or would not help. The current IE models that we're using includes different teachers teaching that IE period. So if I'm Mrs. Jones and I have a math class in the current model, a different teacher could potentially be doing the intervention with my students. But under the proposed model, Mrs. Jones could teach her lesson and they would have the time to provide some intervention. So as we can see, about 65% of our teachers felt like it would make a difference. The guiding principles for this new schedule, it would increase our instructional time for all of our students, not only our students with disabilities, our students that are English language proficient students that are working, our gifted resource teachers that are working with the gifted teachers. When we look at how we're utilizing our instructional time, this is a very efficient way without a lot of waste, without a lot of downtime. And we know that idle time in middle school can be problematic. Our electives would remain the same. So all of our students, as they're exploring all the different electives, it would not be like a block schedule where the core classes were increased and the electives were every other day. And there are school divisions that do that. But it would maintain access. Students would get every elective every single day. And they would get them a little bit longer than normal too. With the Virginia Literacy Act, and we are in our first year of implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act, we have to look at how we're going to support that reading intervention because we have some students that are mandated by the Virginia Literacy Act to have reading plans, and we'll be talking about that very shortly.
I want to walk you through what our thinking is and the two proposals that we have. So part of our proposal is a change in the start time. Now, it's not a drastic change. For some students, it wouldn't be a change at all. For example, I worked with the Director of Transportation on this information, but many of our buses already arrive at a time that would not require them to be there earlier because we already have so many students arriving at school between the time of 7:30 to 7:45 that a significant number of students would not be impacted. For some students, it would mean a slightly earlier change to their day. They may have to catch a bus 5 to 10 minutes earlier. But in my conversations with Mr. Walters, increasing our start time to 7:42 or 7:49 would mean that we probably wouldn't have any school buses, or we would only have 7 to 8 school buses that would actually pick up before 6:45. Initially, we thought that it would be earlier, but in looking more closely at that. So again, currently we have students who arrive at school at 7:35. Many students do. The proposed time, depending on which one we look at, might mean that we might have to increase that to 7:25, but that would not be for all students. That would probably just be for a handful of our buses that have longer routes in the morning. Again, most of our students are already arriving at school at 7:45. So changing the start time slightly would allow us to utilize that time, before the school day in a more meaningful way. Again, when we look at the transportation considerations, currently our earliest picked up time right now is 6:38. That might get backed up slightly, but again, even changing our schedule to an earlier start time would mean that only 7 or 8 buses would actually be picking up kids before 6:45. We said, with the proposed schedule, we might have a bus pickup as early as 6:20, But as Mr. Walters has been looking at more closely at this, he thinks the earliest pickup time would actually be 6:30. Our longest bus routes, we have a handful of buses that are, the routes are almost an hour, but most of them are not that long. So we can accomplish this through our transportation. It's complicated if we wanted to extend the school day on the other side, adding time at the end of the day, because that would impact our elementary routes, and that would mean that we would have to shift the elementary schedules. So we've looked at two options, and again, we did this in collaboration with our middle school principals and also our curriculum and instruction team. The first option, which is the earlier time, would be that we would change the middle school start time, meaning the start of first period, from 8:05 to 7:42. This would enable us, through the time gained in the morning, as well as the elimination of the IE period, to increase our periods, our class periods for each class, from 45 minutes to 54 minutes. That adds 23 minutes to the total day, which over the course of a year, in 180 days, that gains us 69 additional hours. We also looked at a slightly later time. So if 7:42 seemed too early, what if we went to 7:49? So that would increase our instructional periods to 53 minutes rather than 54. Again, eliminating that IE time, taking advantage of some of that downtime in the morning, and giving us an additional 48 hours. Another thing I want to point out is that when we've looked at other school divisions, nearby school divisions, and even school divisions across the state, our school day is shorter than most other school divisions. As an example, Pulaski County, their secondary schools, both middle and high school, they start their day at 7:30 and they are out at 2:55. So they have 40 more minutes of instructional time than we do. Roanoke County, they start their day at 8:20 and get out at 3:25. They have an additional 20 minutes in their day. Floyd County has an additional 15 minutes. So when we look at most of the other school divisions nearby and even in other parts of the state, we do have a shorter instructional day. And you may have seen the news today, but even Roanoke City is introducing a new schedule change to their middle schools. And while their school day wouldn't be longer than ours, they are going with a structure that introduces a 75-minute block for all of their core classes, and their elective classes don't meet as frequently. Again, we like the idea of giving equal time to all of those classes because they're important. But other school divisions, if they're in the area and across the state, do have more instructional time in their day for their middle schools, and in some cases across all levels. So again, that's just a quick comparison of the two options. At this point, we would want to hear feedback as we consider which would be the better option. But again, this small change, again, it's not a significant change in terms of sleeping patterns and adjustments to students' day. As I said, for many students, it really wouldn't be a change at all, depending on what time they're already arriving in school. But this could greatly increase the amount of instructional time that we have with students. As Dr. Comer said, one of the things we have to consider with the Virginia Literacy Act is, are we dedicating enough structure, intentional time for students on reading plans? And this is something that we have to make sure we're following and being compliant in. So she's going to talk with you a little bit about how we would use this day and the time to address reading plans and reading intervention needs of our students.
We know we are federally and state identified with our students with disabilities, and that is a group of our population that is most at risk. With the Virginia Literacy Act, a reading plan is required unless a parent opts them out of that plan for any student that fails their SOL in reading, or if they had a read aloud accommodation on their IEP. So with this plan, in addition to their Tier 1 instruction, we can revamp our literacy labs, which we already have, but we could look at that because it would also be a little bit longer than what we're getting right now. But we think about the expert-led sessions. In a literacy lab, if you have a reading specialist, that is expert that's got that reading master's. They know all the reading strategies and how to teach reading. But if we combine that for our students with disabilities and include our special education staff in there, then we've also got the teachers that are most trained in specially designed instruction to help those struggling students. So when you think about this, if I were having heart issues and I went to my general practitioner, they would say, oh, you have a cardiac problem. They're going to send me to a specialist, a cardiologist. So if we've got students that are really, really struggling with reading, why not give them those specialists in those reading, those literacy labs, and give them those special education teachers combined with, and put that team together to help these students achieve as much as they can. This is the way we really look at individualized support for all of our students. The benefits of this proposed schedule: it's instructional time for all students. Yes, we're targeting some areas where we want to grow. The greater opportunity to embed that instruction and small group instruction by the classroom teacher. The classroom teacher sees those students every day. And rather than putting those students in an IE period with another teacher, that teacher's already taught that lesson. They know where that student needs that help, and they can get that time. They can get that second dose in that literacy lab. This does better align with, it's closer to the elementary. There's still a gap in the amount of time between elementary and secondary, but it does close that gap a little bit. And once again, it does support our schools that have been federally designated. And it's not all of our schools, but our 2 schools that were on track, maybe we could see them move to distinguished. And then our 2 schools that are in need, move them to on track.
So we wanted to bring these ideas before you tonight so we could answer your questions, receive any feedback. At this point, we're prepared to take any direction from the board in terms of other information that you might need as we think about the possible implementation of one of these schedules. So at this point, we're happy to answer any questions or provide any clarification. But again, the purpose of this is for us to look at our existing practices, think about how we can increase that instructional time, maximize the use of time that we do have, so that we can best support all of our middle school students. Because we know that middle school is those are critical transitional years for students, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to meet the needs and support them so we can, achieve the best outcomes for all of our students. So we're happy to answer any questions.
So, questions from the board? Ms. Bond, would you like to start?
Before she starts, is there any way somebody can turn off the air conditioner? Please. It is freezing in here. I'm doing everything but covering my nose up and getting my coat.
I'm about to cover up here.
It is freezing.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. Ms. Bond?
When I was reading this previously, however, I agree with all the needs. I'm going to say that. And when we were in our retreat, one of the things that we had to do was we had to list a purpose that we felt like we served on the school board. And my purpose, I felt like, was dealing with things that affect families in their everyday life. Mm-hmm. And sad to say, I think this is one of them. And I have to say, I can't support the earlier time. Just because 10 minutes in the morning for families is huge. I don't even have kids in the school, and 10 minutes for me is huge. And I pulled, when I was in school 100 years ago, we started at 8:25 in high school. And I understand high school and elementary school and middle school, yeah, I get it. That's just so different. Some of the things that I look at and I listen to, students are also engaging in tougher classes. They haven't been in 4th and 5th grade. Then now they're all of a sudden in harder math classes, and I understand they need more time. They need more instructional time. I get that completely. But how did we get to where we've shifted so far, starting at 8:25 and ended at 3:15, to where now, I mean, I just can't imagine putting my student on the bus at 6:20. To me, that's just tough, very tough. And most families don't have just a middle school student. They have elementary students. They have that they can't leave alone at home, so they're, pulling those children out too. So for me, I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't have the answers. I'm not an educator, and I support what I know I see we need, but I can't do it through putting kids on the bus earlier, because I understand a lot of buses are there, but we've spent many, many, many months talking about what the need of breakfast for students is. And so if we're starting school earlier, then kids are getting there earlier to eat the free breakfasts that we have instituted. And I just, for me, I just can't go the earlier route. And, whether it's adjusting the schedules, not for elementary and I know we did that in previous years, but I couldn't put kindergarten through 5th graders on the bus that early, and I for sure can't do 6th graders and 7th graders. So just some thoughts.
Ms. Parton?
Thank you both for the information. You all did a great job. I'm glad to hear that the principals and the teachers were surveyed, and I'm glad to hear that we reached out to other districts to kind of see what was working for them. I do know that we have been one of the later school times in a lot of our surrounding districts. I don't know if their schools are having the same issues that ours are, but I do know that they do have earlier start times. So I am going to agree with Ms. Bond on the bus issue. The age of the kids standing out to catch the bus at 6:20 or 6:30 concerns me, especially in the wintertime, in bad weather, when we still have school. I know that there's still people that drop kids off at the bus stop because they have to go ahead and go. They have to be at work or whatnot. That is a concern. But another question I had, this still is something we need to fix. So I'm glad we're looking into it, because I'm all about more instructional time. I've been saying that ever since I've been on the board. I don't feel like our kids at any level have enough instructional time. And since we are having issues with this particular grade level, we need to fix it, and we need to figure it out. So my question to you are the IE periods, are those just not being utilized like they should be, or where do you see us having the main issue, other than maybe what you all just let us know about it? Are you all seeing any more issues with that particular IE period? Like we're just not getting out of it what it needs to be. Are we holding accountability there for the people who are instructing those periods, or where are we having the issue there?
I think we have clear expectations about what we need the IE period for. I think the IE period is very complex to manage because, again, we have students who may need additional support and intervention in multiple subjects, but with IE, they can only get that one subject a day. And so it's complex to manage. If a student needs extra support from a math teacher, an English teacher, a science teacher, their special education teacher. There's a lot of time-consuming management behind the scenes of assigning students where they need to go. It creates another transition in the day, so we lose time there. So we have found it's very complicated and complex, and it takes, for it to be done well, it requires a lot of time and a lot of planning. And I can say that because I did that as a middle school principal, and it's very time consuming.
And this is something that we've been doing, I'm sorry, how long have we had this IE?
I think we started IE, I want to say around 2018, so we've had it.
We've been trying this for a long time and it's not working.
We're not getting the results that we would like to see.
Okay, and I say we've given it a fair shot. If I couldn't remember when we started it, I knew we have had it, but I couldn't remember when we actually started it. And then, of course, we throw COVID in there after we just started on top of it too. So, so another question I had is, if we do end up going this route and adding instructional time, how are we going to continue to help the kids that still maybe need that extra help, even with that extra instructional time, if we do not have those IE periods? Because I'm sure there will still be kids, even with additional instructional time, that may still need additional help. Do we have any idea of how we wouldn't lose, we make sure we could accommodate those students?
With students who need this extra support in reading and literacy, we do have the literacy labs. And so that creates a full period, dedicated to providing specialized intervention and instruction for those students. With math classes, the idea that, if we could add, 15, significant time to a period, changing it from 45 minutes to 53 or 54 minutes, throughout the week, that's an opportunity to provide extra time, whether it's for guided practice, intervention, small group instruction. A teacher can accomplish a lot in that short period of time, especially if it's happening every day.
Okay. That was all I had right now. So thank you, ladies, again for everything and for all the information. And even though I do feel like I wish we had a better way. We wish we didn't have to start so early to get those kids there, but I know you said a lot of the kids were already in school at that time frame. I'm just thinking about the ones, the smaller ones that would have to be out there that early. But this is a problem we do need to fix, so we need to figure it out. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parton. Dr. Guidry?
Yes, thank you as well. And I'm just as committed as anyone in this room and this board to see improvement in our middle schools. But I do have some questions. First, Ms. Osborne, could you go back to the slide with the reading pass rate for a cohort? I was curious as to why you chose the COVID years as the framework for helping us understand the performance right now in our middle schools, because it seems to me like why you had such massive disruption over those two particular years that data doesn't tell me a whole lot about what's happening systemically in our middle schools in terms of our performance. Is there any reason for picking those two particular years?
We wanted to look at a group where we could look at them across 4 years.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's really hard for me to draw any conclusions based on this particular data set. Another question I had is, I know that you did survey teachers. Is this the only question that you asked them, or were there other questions that you asked them? Did you ask them, do you think that having an earlier start time would help us with our SOL pass rates?
Because the teacher work time does not change, they would still be arriving at 7:30 as they're required to now. We asked the question, do you believe that increasing the length of class periods by reallocating the IE time would allow you to integrate targeted interventions and enrichments? rather than keeping the IE time separate? That was the question that we asked. And then we asked teachers how they feel about the current amount of time that they currently have this year in their classrooms.
So that's just the class period. So I understand that it wouldn't affect their contracts to have them begin earlier, but did you solicit input from them on an earlier start time in terms of its effect on students and if they saw that as a way of helping to solve this problem? So that's a different issue, whether they thought that was an effective answer to the problem of low SOL scores.
We did not ask that specific question,
Yeah.
but what we saw was that in a survey summary, we saw that there was a large need for longer class periods in core subjects. So
Yeah, yeah. So all the research that I'm aware of indicates that later start times and not earlier start times are better for students and their performance. I think for me, a couple of things that come to mind readily. One is I would like to see deeper analysis to understand what the problem is. Is it just this schedule? Like I don't know from the data whether it's the schedule that's the problem, because I've heard other things. I've heard because you have students coming from very different elementary schools and environments that first year is getting a number of students basically up to the same level. I know also with our gifted programming, it's really light compared to what we're doing at the elementary level, and then we have a lot of APDE classes. So I've heard anecdotally some other reasons why. I'm not saying that we don't need longer periods, but I'd like to see more, and I think it would have been helpful to build more support, like having listening sessions with our teachers and say, okay, so we are not performing in this level, middle school level. Tell us what you think is the problem. What can we do? I think that's a key piece, is to engage those teachers to find out because they know what the problem is. What's the solution? And then the last thing that I'll say, and I'll move on, is that I'm just going to say anything that affects the entire division with schedules, calendars, getting input from the community is just essential, because I know you want direction from us, but I got flack from this because it just kind of dropped and there wasn't support building. And so now there's like resistance to it. So that's puts me in a really difficult position. So I think we need longer day. I think we need more instructional time. I'd like to see more proposals, and I'd like to see more data and analysis of what's going on at our middle school level. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Dr. Guidry. Dr. Roundtree?
Yes, I have a few questions and comments. Intervention and enrichment period, what I understand from my own children and whatnot, I think that's a good amount of time, or good time to recapture into our standard class instructional times. Are there any kind of unintended consequences that y'all think might come from getting rid of IE, the intervention and enrichment period?
I mean, it would be adding more dedicated time to each class. I can't see any downside to that.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so I don't see anything either. I was just asking if there was any kind of downsides that y'all saw. Shifting the start time, I know several children at this age group that they really appreciate that first 15 to 20 minutes that they get to school and they are able to interact with their peers. It's something that is lost when you go from elementary school to middle school, that you don't have recess anymore. You don't have that social interaction. And I do actually believe that losing that will have an impact on student mental health, just because they don't get to interact with those friends that are not in a sport that they're in or in the same classes that they're in, but that they have other commonalities with. But the intervention and enrichment period gets you halfway there to the approximately 10 minutes that you're talking about to each class, gets you about 5 minutes. For the discussion on distinguished schools in elementary, middle school, and high school, across the state, is there a difference in percentage of schools that are distinguished at the 3 levels? Or
I don't have that breakdown in front of me, but that's information we could bring to you. I feel like, based on what I've looked at, that there's more high schools than middle schools who are falling into that category.
right? Yeah, I feel like middle school is just a large transitional period for students, and saying that we don't have distinguished schools in middle school and not comparing that to the broader state, I think we need to compare it to the broader state to get an idea of is it systematic throughout the state that we don't have as many middle schools that are distinguished. And then also shifting the afternoon schedule. I'm sure my high school students over here will love this comment, but shifting that to being after elementary schools get out, so that your buses are picking up approximately 45 minutes to an hour later, would also provide additional time, but then not impact the elementary school time as well.
So the afternoons are tight. That's where we don't currently have any flexibility in the schedule. I mean, our school buses that do their secondary runs starting at 2:50, I mean, some of them barely have enough time to make it to the elementary schools by, their dismissal time, which starts around 3:45. So there's no current flexibility. Now, years ago, there was some discussion about flipping the two levels, just having elementary start, and they would finish earlier than they are now, and having secondary start later. Roanoke County currently uses that model, but there was opposition to that. Concerns of elementary school students being at the bus stop at 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But so that is something that has been looked at in the past, but it's been some time since we've had that discussion or really looked at data or information related to it. But certainly there is research out there that suggests the teenage brain functions better later in the morning, and that an 8:30 time or a 9 o'clock start time might be better for them.
Okay. And that was all the comments and questions I had for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roundtree. Mr. Roberts?
Well, I'm probably going to echo people here a little bit. Obviously, I would be in favor of additional instructional time. That I think is very clearly needed. My concern is having an earlier start time, especially for the younger children. I'm just not comfortable with those younger children being at the bus stop at 6:20 or 6:30. From my perspective, I think it's a safety issue. And I certainly recognize Dr. Widener's point that she made, that the afternoon time slots are tight. This is not an easy position to be in. While I certainly want to see more instructional time, I'm not comfortable putting younger children at the bus stop earlier. That's really it for me, but I think everybody else has brought up some pretty valid points. But I'll let everybody else move on.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Ms. Franklin?
So for me, one of the first things that I noticed when I went through the presentation was, how does this impact the high school, as we heard tonight? And it will have an impact, because those students will have to get up earlier to get on the buses to get to school. And that the community input, there was no community input to even a small portion of the community to, poll to see how you felt about it. We've been through these school start changes, end changes several times. And when we had to, because of inclement weather, had to add, I think, 10, 15 minutes to the day, the community about went crazy. And I swore then I would never, ever vote for that to happen again. And as far as the schedule with the high schools and the middle schools flipping and starting later, in the end, it turned out that it's because the bus routes just would not work. They would not work. We could not get children to school in a timely manner because there wasn't enough buses to run those routes for the secondary and elementary schools in one day. I absolutely agree. Starting school earlier, not a good idea. But I also know that there is this transition time in middle school where we're losing ground. I've talked to elementary principals about this throughout the years, and they're puzzled. It's like, the kids are pretty good when they leave here. What happens when they get to middle school? So one of the things I've thought about is sixth grade, when students are used to that elementary schedule and how that works is maybe the IE time being shortened for sixth grade and adding more time for a transition year to help them adjust to how sixth grade learning happens. Maybe that's part of a solution to help with how we're dealing with this drop in grades. I also looked at these years too and was puzzled that these were probably two of the worst years across the country for education, and was wondering why we chose those years. So long story short, you all said everything that I was going to say, and I cannot agree with starting school earlier at middle school, basically at secondary, period, because that's what would happen.
Dr. Gimple, did you have any comments or?
I think, and I'm sort of digesting all this, right? Digesting the thoughts that you have about the community response. I think that's very, very important. The other thing that strikes me, anytime we propose something like this that's going to impact a grade level or a school, is that your teachers and your principal of those schools, they know that they are responsible and accountable for what their kids are learning, right? The teachers know that they're accountable and responsible. And if they're on board with a proposal, if they think that that is the best thing, fully knowing the community that they work in and live in and have their own children attending schools here, the principal as well, and if they're behind something, I tend to have faith in that, right? Because they have to own it. They have to own what they're proposing by fully being aware that they're also accountable. And I tend to think that they have a great credence of opinion because they're the ones that are working with this age group every single day, putting in the time, trying to get these guys to move up the scale of student learning. We talk about learning loss all the time, right? Talk about the amount of learning loss that we experienced and that we're still recovering. This is one proposal. There may be other things we can come up with as well, but I just want to say when your educators provide their stamp on something, I think that has to carry a ton of weight because they're the ones that are working with the kids every single day. And they live in and have their own kids in this community. So they understand the impact on kids getting up earlier. I mean, these are your folks that we pay to work with these guys and in our schools. So that's all.
Thank you. Avi and Cyrus, you two are the closest to middle school of anyone up here. What do you think?
I have a couple questions. Does every middle school in the county follow a 7-block schedule?
A 7-period day schedule, yes.
is that a requirement, or is there a specific reason that we use the 7-period schedule?
A block schedule is a long piece of time. I think first of all, we want to be able to provide opportunities to incorporate all the different electives in middle school. And the thing is, in middle school is kind of an exploratory age, so we want students to have the opportunity to have different electives and to have them on a daily basis. There is some research that suggests that 90 minutes or 80 minutes may be too long for middle school students, that they work better in a slightly smaller period. 55 to 60 minutes, a lot of people feel is the ideal.
Alrighty, because like at Eastmont, we have our 4-block schedule with our IE time in the middle of the day roughly, and our classes are roughly 60 to 70 minutes. So by doing that, we still get our electives and get to choose what we want to take, but we also have that extra time in our core classes. So like I've had 3 different schedules throughout my high school, and then they just implemented the new one after these inclement weather days. But most of them have been first block. It's a little bit longer because morning announcements, so maybe 75 minutes. And then second block's roughly 70 minutes, maybe 65 minutes. And then 12 lunchtime, and then either third block, or we'll have that like IE time. And that IE time is usually 40 minutes. So we can go see the teacher that we need help from. Most of the time, if you have like a C or a D in the class, a lot of times those teachers, you're required to go visit those teachers to get that help that you need. And a lot of those students are really looking to get that better grade, so they want to go and see those. And I just think that by looking at potentially going to a 4-block schedule could help or be a possible like solution to the issue, because you still get you don't get to see all your electives in the like first semester necessarily, but you still get to pick and explore throughout both semesters of what you want to do. And we have elongated class periods. After inclement weather and everything we've had to extend our school days to kind of help bank some hours. And on Mondays and Fridays, we have like 90-minute class periods. So we have no IE time on those days, which is really, really, really long. And I wouldn't do that to wish that on anyone, because we go first block, second block, lunch, third block, fourth block. And then if you have a class that you don't need that extra 20 minutes in every day, then the teacher feels like they're stuck with these students. The students feel like they're stuck with a teacher, that you just have way too much time to do like unnecessary assignments, and you're getting assigned busy works. But I think a 4-block schedule would be something to maybe look at for middle school. And that would be a big transition from elementary to middle, to go to a 4-block schedule. But you would have you're really, really, really focused on like those 4 classes for that semester. So like your English, then you take your SOL in December, and then English is behind you, and you can have math in the spring, and you're not trying to balance math and English at the same time, if that makes any sense.
I appreciate your input.
Yeah, so I agree with Cyrus on like making a more semester-based schedule, but I also think that removing the IE time won't really harm social like time in middle school that much, as lunchtime is always there for students to gather and socialize. But I have a question. So in the 7-block schedule, is like, are all the classes just like random? Like, first block will be like math, second art. Like, is it just randomly placed in the 7 classes?
Classes are distributed throughout the day, and it's based sometimes on grade level. So someone could have art first period, they could have it in the middle of the day, they could have it at the end of the day.
Okay.
So electives aren't dedicated to one portion of the day.
Okay, and I also like believe that, yeah, sure, middle school is a very exploratory time in one's life, but I think if your foundations of math and English are just simply below, we should probably allocate more time to that than exploration. That's just what I believe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Widener, you were asked a couple of times, I think, from several board members about the spillover effect for high school because their buses would be arriving earlier as well and they would have free time, and we haven't really talked about their schedules. What were the thoughts about what's happening at a high school?
So with the high schools, some of them could be impacted where their buses might be arriving 5 to 10 minutes earlier. What would have been implemented with this is all the buses would go to the middle schools first to try to minimize some of that. Now, as I said, many of our buses would not be impacted at all because they currently arrive, before 7:45. We also know that in our high schools, we have many students who don't ride the bus, we have juniors and seniors who drive to school, and so they have the ability to control when they get to school.
I have a question as well. One thing that hasn't been brought up, and just knowing, I've got a granddaughter that's a freshman, and so it wasn't too long ago if I helped take her to school, the line at Christiansburg to drop off students is to the road. So that's a huge amount of students. And a lot of them don't get through that line if they're there at the very last minute. So, how is check-ins, tardies, arriving late? I know at our high schools it's bad. So is that something that I don't know how, and I don't begin to try to come up with a way. And I do respect what our teachers think, and I do think that they would want longer instructional time, but that doesn't mean that they agree with the earlier or, start time. But looking at tardies, looking at check-in time, could that affect how our first, especially the students that have math or English in their first period, getting a late start, it started in classwork, students coming in, checking in. Could that make a difference? I don't know. I'm asking.
If students are chronically late to a class, sure, they're missing instructional time.
Right. Do we not, we see a lot of absentee issues, so is that something we could look into? Could that be something that somehow we could address? I don't know how. Wouldn't begin to try to explain, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on something like that?
Just efforts to try to reduce that? Are you talking about just implementing efforts to try to reduce tardiness to school? I think some of our schools have incentives and awards that they do for students who, have good attendance and come to school on time, so that could be one approach.
Can I just follow quickly, or do you want to?
Go ahead.
Are you going to go back through? Oh, okay.
So I'm going to be really quick because I know we've talked about this too. So, so they just made me kind of think that, math and reading is a foundation. And if those foundations aren't there and grounded, I don't know if we need to necessarily worry about as much of the opportunities for the classes for them to explore, which I still want them to be able to look into that and see what's there. But I would rather them know their math and reading over trying to figure out what they're interested in at that point. Have we thought about maybe making the core classes to tie in the electives, the core classes daily and maybe elective classes 2 days a week, every other day? Would that be something that might be looked at to help with that matter, possibly?
That could be something that we explore and look at.
Okay.
Dr. Getry?
Yeah, thank you. Two really quick things. The first, I wanted to just respectfully respond. The indication I've received is that raises questions whether the teacher is on board. That's why I asked about the survey. There was a very specific question, but that wasn't the plan is, that's part of the plan, but the core of the plan is to move to earlier start time. And I don't see the teachers being on board with that. So it's possible they could be, but I'd want to see that because they're in the trenches. One of the I have heard criticism of IE time, and I know actually last spring IE was given over to SOL prep, so there was a reconfiguration in the spring. If you do get rid of the IE time, how does that affect gifted services? Because I know that gifted students are pulled out during that IE time, and that's their needs are different than the SPED students and others who require different services. So what's the plan for the gifted if you remove the IE?
We would have to look at how gifted services are being delivered. I mean, through math, it's generally delivered through the advanced coursework that is offered in the middle school. With ELA, with English Language Arts, we've created honors level classes. We can cluster our gifted students. Our GRTs can push in and co-teach in those classes. They can utilize a pull-out model in some cases if they want to. We could even explore some pull-out or push-in some of our elective courses. I'm thinking in 6th grade, for example, DTF and career investigations, there could be opportunities to provide gifted enrichment in those classes. So there's lots of different ways that those services could continue to be delivered.
So if you remove that time, do you currently have enough GRTs to still maintain services? Because by pulling them out during the IE time, you're cluster, like you're extracting, so you only need one GRT per grade with that model. I know that they move from class to class. So do we have enough GRTs to be able to ensure that we are still providing robust services for all gifted identified students absent of this IE period?
I think we have enough different ways that we can deliver that. I mean, even with the IE time, the GRTs are limited in the number of students that they can work with each day because there's a 25-minute IE time and they have, they're not going to see all of their gifted students in one day.
Right. They have to rotate. So what I'm saying is already stretched by having the concentration. So if you move that concentration and you dilute, as it were, the services. So that's one thing that whatever plan that we have, I'm fine if you remove the IE, but I would want assurance that not only are SPED students taken care of, but also our gifted identified students, because that has been identified as a weak point. A soft spot in our delivery of services. Yeah.
Dr. Guitry, I saw a beautiful lesson last week in a school, and it was a 6th grade ELA course. And when I went in to the classroom, I happened to know the GRT that was in the room. So I knew which teacher was the GRT and which was the classroom teacher. But the way these two teachers were co-teaching together, and they were going back and forth, and they were setting these 6th graders up for Socratic seminar the next day, and it was amazing to watch. So that teacher pushed into that classroom. I think if our principals in our building will strategically and intentionally cluster our gifted students together so that they can be served that way, I think that's important that we provide them with like peers, but I think it also helps with that scheduling piece so that our GRTs can get to all of those students.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to more exploration of how to solve this problem.
Dr. Roundtree, did you have another question?
Just to reiterate what Ed was saying, that it's clear from the survey that was done that teachers are okay with pulling in the IE time into instructional period, but changing the school schedule wasn't clear from that survey. So that would be good to check with. Chronic absenteeism in order to improve our spec ed students is also something that we need to work on. And then I also had questions about, are there any before and after school targeted intervention opportunities in the county?
Say that again?
Are there any before or after school targeted intervention opportunities in the county? So I know like when I was in school, for example, in middle school, I went to reading and writing intervention before school time actually started.
So currently, we're in the third year of it. We have received ESSER funds from the state that we use for our what's called our all-in tutoring program. So we do offer that. Sometimes that's sprinkled in during the school day, but generally it's done after school, and we have that for elementary and middle school. That is money that we've received through ESSER, which is as far as I know, will not be continuing next year, so we won't have that funding. But yes, we have been utilizing that funding for what we call our all-in tutoring. So most of our elementary and our middle schools offer that after school. Not every day, but certain days of the week.
How much time before and after, or after school, and how,
Up to an hour.
okay, and what, one day a week or two?
No, most of them do it up to 3 days a week.
Okay, thank you. Those are all the questions.
Mr. Roberts, do you have any more questions?
No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Franklin?
So it's not necessarily a question, and usually tends to be very unpopular when you talk about this in Montgomery County, and that's our inclusion model. And throughout the years, our students with disabilities their achievement and discipline has just gone down and down, or up and up, whichever one you're looking at. And I think to help that problem, this will not help it. What's going to help that is if we take a deep look at how we are doing inclusion from kindergarten, pre-K through 12th grade, and figure out how we are not serving those students the way we should be serving them. That's going to help our scores and what happens in our schools across the district. So we need to be spending a lot more time on that. And again, the start time is not going to help that at all. But we've got to do something about what we're doing to service our special needs students, because it's not working, hasn't been working for a long time. And because we say we're inclusive, everybody gets upset when we say we're going to do something different. Well, something different may be what's best for our students.
And some of the feedback we've heard from our special education department with the IE time and meeting the needs of our students with disabilities is it doesn't provide enough time for them to really work on that highly effective specialized instruction that our students with disabilities need. Because in the IE time, they're not co-teaching, so they're not working alongside, core content teachers. We have found that the IE time it's been limited in its capacity to really provide that specially designed instruction that our students with disabilities need.
Thank you. Dr. Gimple, did you have other comments?
No, I just really appreciate everybody's feedback. Great ideas from you guys as well. And you all talk about how great our teachers are all the time. I've heard you say it. So, and I agree with that. More input there on exact start times. So, but great start. I appreciate the work you did on this. You've, I know you started working on this a while back, probably before I got here, right? So yeah, we appreciate the presentation.
So Dr. Widener and Dr. Comer, what guidance do you need from us? Because I kind of interpreted that you're floating this idea to us to kind of test the waters and see what do we want to guide you to do? Like, what do you want to hear from us? What timelines are you looking at?
I think if we're going to look at making a schedule change for next year, we probably need to finalize something by April when we start building schedules or start to work on the scheduling process. I think what I heard unanimously from the board tonight is that there's not support for starting the school day early, but maybe perhaps for eliminating the IE time. Just to throw a suggestion out there, If we're adamantly against starting school earlier, but we have agreement that there may be a need for additional time within the day, would you want us to explore or look at the possibility of extending the school day on the other side? The key to that would be we couldn't do it just for middle schools. We would have to do it for elementary and conceivably high school as well. So do we want to look at an option of extending all of our school days out 10 or 15 minutes?
I think that's reasonable. It's the amount of time that we were talking about recouping from the beginning of the day was 23 minutes. So if we just push everything out 23 minutes, then we still get the total amount of time that you wanted back into the system.
So,
But again, because our
Probably ask for community input, teacher input, so forth.
So as I stated earlier, we did that once, and the whole community, I mean, from businesses to teachers, parents, students, it was not good. And as you all said, it creates more of a problem. You'd have to change the whole district. It could not just be secondary, elementary, or middle, or high. You would have to be the whole district for the buses to be able to work, for parents to be adjusting their schedules, to have kids picked up, daycares. So I'll just tell you right off the bat, I will not support that unless you come up with something really, really innovative.
Avi?
Yeah, I also do not support that because, like, if you push back the school time, that means you also push back practice times for sports, and then kids are going to be coming home at like 7 because, some sports, like I did wrestling, we had Christiansburg wrestling, it's pretty competitive, and we have these hard practices, and I wouldn't want to be coming back home at such a late time.
I also have one additional thought to just like if we're trying to keep the IE time, Blacksburg was on an AB schedule, so it kind of I guess got extended after COVID. But like Monday on week 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they would have 4 classes, and then on Tuesday, Thursday that week they would have their other 4 classes. So they're still having an 8-class schedule, but on different days of the week they're having those different times and. Or you could continue the 7 classes, and then on certain days, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you could have a block of like just IE where those students could get that focused, like the focused need they are searching for to pass their SOL. So week 1, they would have AB, AB, A, and then on week 2, they would be B, A, B, A, B. So they would still receive the instruction time, but they could also incorporate the IE to get that like specific help they need. But that's just a thought on solutions.
So personally, I feel like I can't give direction in the absence of, I need more information and some other suggestions. We could move to that, but I'd like to explore some other options first, like what we're actually doing during the school day to see if we can increase some of that core instruction. But when I say I don't feel like I can give direction because I really want to hear from the teachers. I want more input and whatever proposal is put before the board. So I immediately thought of that as well. If we extend the day, I know a lot of practices and it goes late, and some of those kids, they're not eating until like 7 o'clock at night. So I think it's really complicated. I'm open to it, but I think there just needs to be more analysis and more information and more input.
Would there be a way to eliminate IE time to add minutes to math and ELA, but keep other periods shorter? Does that create a logistical nightmare that's not possible?
I think that could be very challenging because, as I said, we have our classes distributed throughout the day.
So I'm not sure if we gave you a great answer, but I think more community input, more teacher input. I think there is support for doing away with IE time at the middle school level. I worry about the elementary schoolers getting home later. If high schoolers and middle schoolers are getting home later, that's going to be that'll be after 5 p.m. for some of them, which could be dark at some points of the year as far as extending the school day. So what else do you need from from us, Dr. Widener, before we let you go?
Ms. Crisell, I think just from this discussion, you've given us some brackets to work in, right? We've sort of given us some parameters through the discussion. I think we can go back and discuss it as a staff. Think about next steps. Do we do an additional survey? Do we get a little in depth? Do we study some other divisions and really high performing middle schools and see what the exact schedules they're using? Things like that, and maybe massage this a little bit. And again, this was a float by, it really was. And so we really appreciate the feedback, and we can kind of work from that.
So this is slightly on topic. Would more buses in our county help keep us from having students that are picked up so early in the morning? Or is it other logistics not related to the number of buses?
I think right now we have 98 buses that are on the road right now. And so certainly if we could shorten the routes by less stops for your most distanced riders would probably make a difference. We can actually get some answers on that for you. I'll make sure I report back to you if that really would have a profound effect. I know I went through it in a different division, and it wouldn't have made that much of a difference because the folks the farthest away were still going to be on there for about an hour, either way. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Weiner, Dr. Comer. Okay. Our next item of business is a supplemental appropriation for the school nutrition operating budget. Do I have a motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation to the 2025-2026 school nutrition operating budget in the amount of $274,095?
So moved. Second.
I think that was Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Bond. Any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Guitry.
Yes.
Pardon,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Our next business item is regarding the Christiansburg High School renovations financial update. Angie Bland, our Director of Finance, will present information on the CHS renovations with a financial update. This is just a presentation with no action required. Thank you, Ms. Bland.
Good evening, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Gempel. I'm here this evening to provide a financial update on the Christiansburg High School renovations and additions project. To begin, I will review the timeline that's related to the initial funding and contract awards for the project. In 2021, the county advanced $5 million to initiate the design phase for Christiansburg High School, with the understanding that when the funds were, that they would be reimbursed once the bond funding was approved and appropriated. Those funds were fully repaid in 2022. In May of 2022, bond funds were officially appropriated for the project. In addition, the division secured supplemental funding through ESSER and state construction funds. The division was awarded over $1.9 million in ESSER funds, specifically for HVAC improvements to the school. Additionally, $5,785,665 was contributed from Operation Carryover, state construction funds, and school capital future funds. Together, all of these sources provided a total project funding of $98,185,758. In 2021, the division issued a request for proposal to select an architect and engineering firm to begin the project design. Crabtree was awarded the project and began work at that time. The initial construction solicitation issued was utilizing a construction management at risk, or commonly referred to as CMAR model. Under this approach, the construction firm provides a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, and they assume the complete financial risk of completing this project within that amount. It's also a great time savings, and that was both two items that were very beneficial to move this project forward. The model certainly offers a lot of cost certainty, but does require very close coordination between the architect, the contractor, and the owner. Branch Builds and Associates were selected through this process. And after a thorough review of the project, Branch Builds proposed a GMP of approximately $107 million. Despite extensive efforts to align the project scope with the available funding, an agreement could not be reached within the appropriated amount, and therefore a CMR contract was not awarded. The division then pursued the traditional design build model for the project, and an invitation for bid was issued, and 3 vendors responded. In September 23, the contract was awarded to the lowest responsive bidder, who was Branch Build and Associates, in the amount of $89,875,462. Construction began with phase 0. I believe we're on phase 8 or 9, maybe. I've lost count. The beginning was phase 0. And this required actually creating spaces and relocating the administrative offices. The initial work needed to begin in the front of the building, so all the administrative offices in the front needed to be moved in order for the demolition to start. This work cost approximately $435,000. A temporary bus loop was also required to maintain the operations during construction at a cost of approximately $356,000. Prior to construction, a building permit fee of $388,660 was paid to the town in order to begin the construction. Furniture for all phases of the building totaled over $1.5 million. This includes the administrative furnishings, cafeteria seating, all of the media furniture center, classroom, desks and chairs for both students and teachers, and the specialized equipment for vocational programs. That includes drafting tables, nursing cots, and various other items. The technology costs also increased significantly during the course of this project. The original technology budget was just over $800,000. However, during the time of the project, over the span, technology costs have risen between 30% to 40% since the project began. Additionally, third-party testing services were required throughout the construction to ensure safety and compliance. These services include concrete testing, asbestos abatement monitoring, site inspections, and roof verification. There's a few other projects, but those are the main services that are provided, and those services totaled $298,265. So far, the construction costs and other costs that I have mentioned through these slides total $99,956,733, compared to the originally appropriated amount of $98,185,758. The early estimates from the architect and engineering's firm projected a potential shortfall of approximately $4.6 million. So at that time, the administration implemented a plan to utilize the capital funds over a 2-year period to cover that shortfall. The school division receives approximately $3 million per year from the dedicated 2.5 cents for capital projects from the county. As part of this strategy, in 2024, no major projects were actually initialized or created during that entire fiscal year. However, in fiscal year 2025, several time-sensitive capital needs across the other 19 schools in the division arose. And you can see the list here. Due to these ongoing infrastructure requirements, the administration at the time determined that it was going to be necessary to use those capital funds in order to meet the dire needs of these buildings. And as a result, they decided to utilize the bond interest funds to support the remaining financial needs for the Christiansburg High School project. At that time, there was more discussion about the bond funds, so they had a pretty good idea of where that amount stood, and a decision was made at that time to utilize those funds. There's been a lot of discussion about change orders, so I would like to just briefly explain what their purpose is and what the division's approval process consists of. Change orders typically result from unforeseen site conditions, any necessary code compliance changes, or a clarification of project requirements. In addition, change orders can be initiated by the owner if project changes are requested. The process begins with the contractor submitting a request to the architecture and engineering firm, which reviews the reviews the request to determine if it meets the original scope, if it meets code requirements, and represents an appropriate solution to the needs of the project. If it's approved by the A&E firm, then the request is sent to the district, and initially the facilities director and the project team will review that to make sure there's no errors before ultimately submitting it to the superintendent for final approval as required by the contract. At this time, there have been no change orders related to acts of God, but I wanted to put that information on there as well that from time to time comes up as a change order. For this particular project, we haven't had any other change orders. Typically, those are for severe weather, natural disasters, and don't typically ask for a monetary increase. They're looking for a time extension. But to date, Christiansburg High School has not been requested for any of those. The next 2 slides cover the change orders that have been issued so far to the district. These provide a summary of each one received to date. The majority are related to unforeseen site conditions, which is common in renovation projects that are involving dated facilities, where it is difficult to see behind the walls and beneath the flooring when you start the actual project. All of the approved change orders have been publicly posted on the division's website. I wanted to talk a little bit about each one of these. I'll be very brief, but especially change order number 1. Several of these change orders result in a reduction to the contract value, and these are for owner direct purchases. These purchases allow the division to buy equipment and materials that were originally coming from the contractor. We pull them out of the contractor's contract with the district, and the district issues their own purchase order for this. This results in sales tax savings. As you can imagine, for the amount of material and supplies that are required for this project, it can be significant. So we looked at some of the larger items, worked with Branch and Associates to try and save as much money as possible and look at items that would be a good plan to pull those out and do those, and we did that. However, the change orders that are shown on the website may be somewhat deceiving. If you look at change order number 1, it reflects a contract reduction of $13,659,050 $659,058. However, the actual savings to the district was $395,360. So the actual change order results in that credit as opposed to the $13 million, because in turn we had to issue a purchase order to cover the actual cost for those goods that were pulled out of that contract. Change order number 2, that was for unforeseen site conditions. There were some unsuitable soils, utility adjustments, abatement, and some infrastructure repairs, and that was early on in the project. Change order number 3 includes a credit again for owner purchase for the roofing material specifically. You'll see again that reflects a decrease of I think it's almost 1.9 million, but the actual savings was $266,498. Change order 4 was also for unforeseen site conditions. Along the way, you'll see several sanitary sewer repairs. That seem to be a very common theme throughout this project, as well as some still changes along the way. Change order number 5 also includes unforeseen site conditions, and some of those include a retaining wall modification and a footing elevation change. Change order number 6, that was the last owner direct purchase, and that was for AV equipment. However, there were some other sanitary sewer repairs and pavement of the student parking lot, which resulted in a cost to the district of over $416,000. And then change orders 7 and 8 also include unforeseen site conditions, sanitary pipe repairs, water line changes, and electrical revisions, and abatement was a larger part of those 2 change orders. Change order number 9 has not made it to the district website yet. It is currently in review. Hopefully will be finalized very soon. The requested amount is $942,789. Now it will be adjusted if there are items on there that would not be approved, if we find any errors or the district would not approve those changes. To date, the approved change orders total $1,315,066. If change order number 9 is approved, the change order total would be $2,257,855. This is a summary of the total funding for CHS as well as expenses. And in the beginning, it shows you, with the supplemental appropriation, a total amount of project funding of $102,685,758. And then the project expenditures, I didn't put them all in there. I grouped them in categories because that would be probably 10 or 12 additional slides for you. But you see those individual costs there. So to date, our remaining balance is $539,184. We are at the stage of the project where the number and scope of remaining change requests are expected to be minimal. We feel still very confident that we're going to be able to do the remaining work with these available funds and able to end the project meeting all the needs of the facility with no additional fund requests. And in closing, I appreciate your time and sharing this. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I'll be happy to come back and provide any additional financial updates to the project as we move along.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bland. Board, are there any questions? Ms. Franklin, do you want to start?
No, I understand change orders. I understand how this works and unforeseen issues that come up. I just don't like surprises, and this was a surprise. But I toured the building today, and every time I walk in it, it's just like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. I can't wait for the project to be finished, and we do that second ribbon cutting with not a red ribbon, and we will, and can't wait for the whole community. I wish the whole community would walk through that building and see how their tax dollars have helped to support this community. because high schools are typically the centers of communities, and it's beautiful.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. Mr. Roberts?
No real questions. I'm just thankful that it's progressing, and I'm really looking forward to the project being completed, and I appreciate the update.
Thank you. Dr. Roundtree?
Yeah, so why is it that the total isn't equal to the beginning funds plus the change orders?
So.
Why is there the
Are
extra?
you talking about on slide 10?
Yes.
So now the change orders are with the one that is still in consideration, the 2.2 million.
Correct. Okay, so my basic question is, if you had the beginning funds that were budgeted for the project, and you have some change orders, why are the beginning funds plus the change orders not equal to the total of the project? What's the additional $2.5 million?
So the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So basically, when the project started, the beginning, yes. So what we did not have was basically it took out contingency. Initially, there should have been approximately a $5 million contingency, and that's what had to pretty much be removed. Now, the plan was to have the capital funds as part of that, but then they were not able to be utilized. But the contingency funds have covered the majority of the change orders and then the additional project costs. The phase 0 was not part of the original budget, but they realized in order to meet the timelines and begin that construction that they had to make those changes. They had to do the bus loop and they had to do the phase 0 in order to do that.
Okay, and phase 0 covered the temporary bus loop, the building permits, furniture, technology, and third-party testing?
So phase 0 was just for the movement of the administrative offices, and then also included the temporary bus loop. The phase 0 was at $435,000, and the bus loop was $356,000.
Okay.
Is that it, Dr. Roundtree?
I think that's everything. Thank you.
Dr. Gitry?
Thank you. I really appreciate this information. I think I understand some of the possible confusion here. So the original plan was to spread some of these costs over 2 fiscal years using capital funds, correct?
That is correct, yes.
When was the decision made to shift and to not use capital funds spread over those 2 years and instead use the interest-bearing account, those funds?
Sure. So in the 2024 fund, no capital projects were actually created in 2024. So those funds were moved into the next fiscal year. So approximately $6 million was sitting there.
Yeah.
But in fiscal year 2025, that's when we had the failing roofs. We had all the other projects that just became critical. And it was a decision then, do you take that money and do that? And if so, how do you pay for the remainder of Christiansburg High School? At the same time, there were discussions about the interest funds. And because the project had already started, we were more than midway into that project, you were able to see where those funds were and where they were going. And there was going to be plenty of funds in order to meet the deficit that this would create.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember, and I may have missed it, some information being brought to the board explaining that change. I don't know, but I think one of the things that did add to my confusion and question is that I did go back to the September 29th, I think that was the date, of the joint board meetings. And there was a discussion in there about that account. And so when I looked at it, because I know some of this is coming originally from the Board of Supervisors, was at that time, I'm just looking at the slide, it said available school interest earnings to date, net of estimated rebate, 8.5 million. So I was doing the math, I was like, wait a second, I don't know, I can't reconcile this. Did we have 8.5 million in that interest-bearing account in September when we had that meeting? Am I misunderstanding? Because I think that's part of the confusion, is that we were great. We've got this money. We know how we need to use it, and it has to be used for capital projects. But I think that may have led to some of the confusion, thinking we had more. Can you help me understand the confusion there?
Sure, that is correct. It was at that time of the meeting, actually, I believe the county administrator at that time gave the amount, and it was approximately 8.5 million. And it does continue to grow over time. Now that we have paid down substantially, the interest, of course, is much smaller increments. But we have spent just over 5 million with this, one request. So it would be between 8.5 to 9 million that, as a total that was sitting there prior to that.
Okay, and so it's not just the change orders that accounts for the drainage from that account, correct?
That's correct. It was some of this additional work that was required. The change orders are a large part of that. I mean, they're over $2 million, but there were also these additional fees that added up for the additional work required to get to the construction originally.
So when did that happen? Because looking at this, the only thing we have a timeline for are the change orders. I was like, that doesn't add up to half of that account. So
that was very early on in the project. The phase 0 was initially one of the first things that needed to be done. And one of the slides that I mentioned, it was very early on that the A&E firm had concerns, that was going to be the shortfall, and that was the reason to move to the decision to utilize capital funds to take care of that. So it was pretty early on in the project that they knew it was going to exceed the amount that was appropriated for it.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. I mean, I did want to wait to get more information to come. I didn't want to jump to any conclusions, but I think that meeting, it wasn't clear, and so that contributed to this. So that's unfortunate, because like I said, I can't remember us being notified of that shift. It may have happened and I might not have known, but it's not just the change orders. It was a decision made at some point. We're going to go over and we're going to have to dip into that, and we just didn't know. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Ms. Barton?
Ms. Bland, thank you for your patience in waiting and for everything that you've presented here. Most of my questions have already been asked. You asked a couple that I was getting ready to ask her, so thank you for that. I just think a lot of it was a lack of communication to the board is kind of what I'm gathering with what I'm hearing. There was just some miscommunication there that would have been nice for us to be aware of. But again, things happen. You run into things when you're building, especially when you're working on a school that old and land that you have no idea what you're going to find in the school or beneath the school. So a lot of these change orders, of course, I'm sure are definitely were needed. I have no doubt in that. But looking at something particular, I might want to ask the board if they would be curious into putting a bug in the town's ears, if maybe they might want to help us with some funding for a building permit per se, or maybe giving us a break on one or something, because I did not realize that we had paid that just for the permit, and that's almost $500,000. So that's quite a chunk of change. But I have no further questions, but thanks for your time and all the information. Much appreciated.
Ms. Bond?
Thank you, I'm good.
Dr. Gimple, any other thoughts or no? Thank you so much, Ms. Bland. I really appreciate your time and the effort that you put into gathering all of this for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next item of business is regarding safety upgrade presentations and supplemental appropriation. It is an action item. Rob Ratcliffe, Director of Technology, and Dr. Mike Brown, Director of Facilities, will share information on the phone system upgrade and facility safety upgrades requested. So I'll let you share your information first, and then we'll ask for a motion.
Perfect. Hello, Board. Dr. Gimple. Glad to be here tonight. Before I get started, I do want to thank the AV team in the technology department because we had some phone issues over the last couple of months that they have had to work over long hours and to get it back up and running where we're at now. I also want to thank Jason Garrettson. We've been working with him as far as some safety upgrades that we're looking at for next year, including some of the conversations we've had with the phone system. So his expertise is very valuable as we get ready to hopefully start this project. So as I mentioned, our current phone system has had some outages over the last couple months. Part of the issue is all the phone systems go to one location. So when that one location has issues, then it impacts all schools. And so that's what the major problem is, and that's what we had here recently. So the proposed solution to this is to go to a whole new phone system that would have each building would have its own server there with the redundancy, or application with the redundancy there at the school. So if there is an issue, it would only impact that one school and that one school only. The other part of it I want to say is we're looking at it through working with Citizens, who is our local internet provider and our local phone provider. So if there ever is an issue, they're right down the road to be able to help us. Previously with the phone system we currently have, we have to call and get support and help put a ticket in. That support is on a different time zone, so we have to wait for that time zone to change. So this would make things a little better and faster if we do have an issue. The other thing is it would allow us to continue trying to get rid of the POTS line, which stands for plain old telephone system, or service. And there's your old telephone lines there. Funny acronym, I know, but those costs are increasing. We got a letter back around Christmas time saying that those lines are going to double in cost. We received another letter that said those lines are going to end service as of June 1st. So they're trying to get rid of those because of the cost of those. So that will help us with that as well. The other big thing is all phones would be replaced with a new model to help with this changeover. I'm going to go over some safety things first. The first is call alert. So this system would have a place where if someone in a school was in a classroom and now dialed 911, we would have it set up where the SRO, the principal, or anyone else that we want it to will receive a text, a phone call, or an email as well, letting them know the location, the school, the room number that dialed 911. That way that building administrator, SRO, can then get to them quickly to make sure, one, if it was a medical need or some other need that needs to be attended to. So that's the first safety piece that's with the new proposal. The next one is dial and announce. So what this pretty much is it would allow us to program the phone to where, say the number was 36, that anyone in a school would be able to dial 36, and that would automatically send a message out to all the phones, including the PA system for, say, a lockdown. And that way, that's an easy way that everyone in this school district could be at any school and know that is the code to put in to have a lockdown happen. As we know, during any situation, timing is very critical. So for that, for an employee to be able to cause a lockdown to happen versus them having to call someone, or right now we do have it through our computer system. We have that system that we have as well, but this one would be a little quicker as well. The other upgrade that we noticed as we're working with Citizens and the team there was that our CTE classrooms, a lot of times they're in there, it's loud noises, they don't have a phone in there. So we would with this upgrade, we would purchase wireless phones that would connect to that system. They would also receive the lockdown calls if that was ever going across. They would also be able to make it, but also if there was an emergency in their shop, they would have a phone that they would be able to use rather than having to go back to their classroom to find that phone to make that call. So with that too, that was another safety feature that we wanted to include. All right, any questions?
Board members, any questions? Dr. Roundtree?
Yeah, so why don't the CTE shops have wired phones?
So they may have some wired phones in there, but it's again so loud that it may be over here on the other side of the shop, and they're over here working with students. So with the wireless, they would be able to carry it with them as they're moving throughout.
Okay. Yeah, it's yeah, I was just wondering also if we could get some extra loud ringers for those phones, so
Sure.
that even if they forget a wireless phone attached to their hip,
Yeah.
they still it rings in the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Roberts, you okay? Any other questions? I think we can move on to Dr. Brown.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Gempel. I'd like to present some information tonight on a few facility upgrades, and we will start with Margaret Beeks. I was contacted by the school principal that we had some plaster falling from some classrooms. She had provided some pictures. At that time, I notified our architect to go out, and we took a look and determined that it was a concern, and we needed to move our students out of the classrooms. They continued to study that and let us know that we would need to replace the ceilings in up to 8 classrooms. In that course, we worked with the town. We had to get a sealed set of drawings and submit that for a building permit. So we are currently in the process of removing those ceilings and put them back with an ACT system and LED lights and some other upgrades in there. What will our ceiling renovations provide? It will provide, obviously, keep plaster from falling from the ceiling, possibly causing injury to our students. We've identified a contractor, that's Kessler Contracting. The cost will be $90,000, and again, we are in the middle of that since we have displaced 8 classrooms, so we're hoping to wrap that up pretty soon. Any questions on that? Would you like to ask questions as we go through, or would you like me to go through the whole presentation?
Maybe just at the end.
Okay. Snow guard installation, we had a couple of incidents with our latest snow event where we had snow fall onto some vehicles at the operations center out front. And we also had snow fall from a very steep structure at Kips onto a breezeway and cause some damage on that. At that time, we determined we needed to put some snow guards in. Also, with the Kips incident, after that happened, we went and surveyed the remainder of our schools. We did determine that there were snow guards on the remainder, or the roofs were asphalt shingles and didn't pose a risk of shedding snow. So we reached out, got an estimate for that from Kessler Contracting, and you can see the cost there. For the operations center is $22,500, and the operations centers or Kips is $11,000. And timeline for completion on that is approval of funding and scheduling of the contractor. Blacksburg High School sinkhole. We were notified that there was a sinkhole at Blacksburg High School, and that is located approximately down. It's located near the student parking lot down near Bruin Lane. It's probably about 20 to 30 yards away from the parking lot. It doesn't pose any danger to the students or the public. It's not on a trail or anything like that. It's not posing any danger to the parking lot right now, but it does need to be repaired. And we have reached out to our civil engineer and our geotechnical engineer to begin design and remediation steps for that. We would need to develop a plan with our civil engineer and geotechnical engineer, bid the project and obtain a cost estimate. The first phase of this is to do an ERI, what they call an ERI test, and that's to determine how extensive the sinkhole is. A lot of times you can't see what's going on, where you can't see what's going on underneath. This is a test to tell you where the throats, so to speak, are and how to mitigate those. So this is the first phase in that. We'd like to move forward with that. once we know that, we can come in and do some preliminary work on that to kind of stabilize it until we have a more permanent plan to remediate the issue. Also, we're looking at the Auburn High School and Shawsville Middle School gym light upgrade. Right now, we have the older style fluorescent lights in there. If we come back in and put the LED fixtures in, it's going to be one, much more energy efficient, brighter, safer. This was actually brought to me by our electrical department, and for $3,000 per school, our ops center electrical department can do the work, and it's going to pay for itself within 12 months. So I've talked to both principals, and they're both on board with these two projects. Questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. Board members, any questions? So, Dr. Brown, I know you looked at the Gilbert Linkus ceiling. So the Margaret Beek ceiling, the plaster issue was a replacement of popcorn ceiling that now the plaster's kind of falling down. And you looked at Gilbert Linkus, and that's not an issue there, even though they're sister schools. That hasn't been an
We
issue.
had them review that, and at this time, it's not an issue.
And then, again, with the snow guard at Kipps Elementary School, the sister school to Auburn Elementary, they didn't have the same kind of snow issue with their roof?
No, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for your time this evening. There aren't any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation to the 2025-2026 school capital improvement budget for the amount of $495,500?
So moved.
I believe that was Ms. Parton and Ms. Franklin. Any discussion?
I just have one. So when I looked at this, all this money is coming out of, it says school capital bond interest. So this is all coming from that interest-bearing account, correct? Okay. And after this, how much will be left in that account? Approximately.
Yes, with this request, if it's approved, and the original supplemental appropriation for Christiansburg High School and the smaller projects, approximately $3 million will be remaining, maybe a little bit more. We'll still have interest funding that will be coming in until the project, is completely closed out. But as it stands right now, if this were approved, it would be the $3 million remaining.
And just one final question. How long do we have to expend those funds? Because I know that there's a window in which we have to use those funds.
So there's no actual deadline for those funds, but what happens as the funds sit and they're not utilized, then we pay a penalty for those. And that's the biggest portion of that. I know in the meeting that we discussed back in September, that was one of the concerns. If you let the funds sit, we continue to be penalized, and the more funds that are there, the bigger the penalty would be. So you do want to try and utilize as much as you can to avoid those penalties.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And Ms. Bland, the remaining funds the remaining interest funds, that doesn't account for that change order that's still in process for CHS, right? That was like $900,000.
That was included in the total that we had there. So the $500 and some $1,000 remaining, that's after that, if that's approved. Now, if that's reduced, then there will be more funding there available. But that total funding that remains for CHS does include that change order, though, although it hasn't been officially approved yet. I wanted to put worst case scenario in there for you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Other questions? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, the proposed revisions to the weapons section of policy 7-3.1. The school board requested revisions to the weapons section of the Student Code of Conduct, policy 7-3.1. An initial draft was submitted for first read at the February 3rd, 2026 school board meeting under the agenda item weapons policy. Tonight, the administration shares an updated draft within the context of the complete policy 7-3.1. Suggested changes are indicated in red and are contained within pages 19 through 21. This policy is submitted for the board's approval. Do I have a motion to approve the policy as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Dr. Roundtree, any discussion?
Thank you for the changes that were made. I sent an email because there's a missing comma and section is referred to in different ways. I don't know that I need to make an amendment because it's not content related. But I'd like to see that cleaned up. Yeah, okay. So just to be clear, because we removed on page 20 what defines a missile, anything that is, so like a Nerf gun that looks like a Nerf gun, that would be considered a weapon with these changes, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Garrettson.
Sure.
Thank you.
Generally speaking, a Nerf gun is a good example. Could be considered a missile under Virginia code. But the policy also includes in the guidelines the opportunity for the superintendent or his or her designee to investigate the matter and make a recommendation to the board other than long-term suspension or expulsion. Typically speaking, I think that's what the board would expect us to do, and I think that's what administration would tend to do, is to look at the matters that are involved. There are some other policies from other counties that specify BB guns, airsoft guns, pneumatic guns.
Yeah.
The word missile is included in some of the code. That's where we pull it from, and we would, with the board's permission and authority, exercise that permission to investigate the matter, determine it is more akin to a toy than a weapon.
And I know that they can cross over and there are toys that can look like real guns, so I do understand that. So even though the administration will have that latitude, any information we should send out about our weapons policy should indicate up front that even a Nerf gun would be considered a weapon if it's found. So they could face expulsion. Chances are, given the circumstances, the administration would make a determination, but that should be the expectation for our students, correct?
I think the expectation is we would like no guns in our
Yep.
school, toy or otherwise, and that's the message we would send.
Yeah, I'm for
Certainly,
that.
yes, sir.
Yeah, just so
I
that
know
it's
you are.
clear,
I
because
know
people
you
will be
are.
like,
Yes, sir.
this isn't a weapon. Well, you need to know from the beginning when we send out information about our weapons policy includes anything, including a Nerf gun.
Yes, sir. And additionally, within this section of the policy, we are talking about significant disciplinary matters that typically would go before the school board. We want to communicate, we don't want any, right? Any, like a toy gun might potentially result in some additional level of discipline short of a board hearing. It still shouldn't be in school. Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Board members, any other discussion? Ms. Parton? No? Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Mr. Roberts?
No comment.
Dr. Roundtree? Thank you so much, Mr. Garrettson.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to unfinished business. Are there any items of unfinished business? Hearing none, are there any items of new business? Are there any announcements or other information that board members would like to share?
So the dialogue on race has been rescheduled for the 14th. If you've registered, you don't need to re-register, but if you haven't registered, please join us.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? I'd just like to thank Mrs. Webb for inviting all of us to her unified PE class at Blacksburg High School. They're having a special celebration tomorrow as part of Kindness Week and BHS's Spirit Week. I wasn't able to go due to my work schedule, but I was able to stop by today and watch them making their posters, and then they had some time in the gym, and it was a lot of fun. So I just wanted to thank Mrs. Webb for sharing that information with us. And I also want, again, Dr. Gimple already said this, but to thank my board members for making time for the retreat this weekend. I think it was a great start, and I appreciate you all making the time to get to know Dr. Gimple and each other a little bit better. All right. Upcoming school board meetings are listed on board docs. We have a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors on March 16th, and then our regular work session on March 17th. I adjourn this meeting at 10:44 p.m.